So hey guys, this is your favorite the fictional vortex. So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto become the sea monsters Naruto x Clarisse. But before we start, remember to subscribe and like this video. Now let's start. The Poison in the Dream. NPU. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters Chapter 1. Naruto grunted as he took his hand away from Talia's tree. Things had gone downhill fast because Talia's tree had been poisoned. He did his best to relieve her pain by taking the poison into himself, and still it was not working. At first, a lot of people began to blame him for poisoning the tree, but there were a few that stood by his side, believing that he indeed did not do that. His whole Aphrodite cabin, Clarisse and a few from Ares' cabin, Chiron, Mr. D, and Charles Beckendorf all believed in him because they were his closest friends. The others decided not to talk to him because they believe it was him who did it, because Chiron identified the poison as an old poison from Hades. When he asked his dad about it, Hades informed him that he has not made that particular poison in a long time because it was old and the ingredients for it had become rare. That brought a few more to Naruto's side, but he was still under suspicion. As Naruto was walking down the hill, he passed Clarisse, but before she could speak, the blonde suddenly fell to his knees and clutched his chest. "Naruto," she shouted as she rushed to his side. "This has got to stop. I can't. This poison is from Hades and it is my responsibility to help Talia through this pain," Naruto said in pain. Clarisse looked at the blonde with a sad smile. She admired the blonde because of his selflessness and his fighting skills. She really liked the guy, not that she would ever admit it. "I figured that, but if you keep this up, you're going to die. Hey, you should know by now that I would die for my friends," Naruto said with a serious expression. "Okay, whatever, let's go to the big house. Chiron said he needs to speak with you," Clarisse said. Naruto nodded before Clarisse supported him down the hill to the big house. "Okay, I got the knucklehead," Clarisse shouted once she and the blonde were there. "Yes, I see that," Chiron said with a chuckle. He was in his wheelchair since it was hard to maneuver in his centaur form while in the house. He looked at the blonde and smiled sadly. He was one of the few that believed that blonde, but seeing him this weakened from the poison hurt. The boy had this special power that let you care for him right away, and if you didn't, his personality would change you for the better. He was not sure the blonde knew about it, but that power was very rare amongst the demigods, and even rarer to have the power in a demigod of Hades. "There have been a change of plans, Naruto." "And what would that be?" the blonde asked. "Well, Annabeth was supposed to meet Percy tomorrow to hang out and then bring him here," Chiron informed. "I want you to go with her because I fear something bad is stirring. Since you will not take the mantle of the prophecy, I need your help to protect Percy." "You got it," Naruto said seriously. "I protected him when I got to this world, so it shouldn't be too hard." "Good," Chiron replied with a smile. "For now though, I would rest if I were you." "Yeah, this poison is very tiring," Naruto replied as his eyes drooped. This poison, if he took away too much, he would die, but since he was a son of Hades, he could be immune to it if he just took enough to ease Talia's pain. So far, it was work and he was taking more and more. However, the result was him getting weaker if he didn't rest after doing so. Soon, he was asleep in his chair across from Chiron. "He is pushing himself too far," Clarisse stated. "I know, but he is too stubborn to listen to reason. He must really love that girl, go that far for her," Chiron said, but he did notice that Clarisse flinched. She too was in love with the boy, and it was hurting her to see the blonde go after someone who was stuck in a tree. He didn't know what to say, so he just put a hand on the girl's shoulder in comfort. Clarisse smiled a bit before he sat down next to the blonde. Before Selena Beauregard walked in to see her cabin mate. While Selena and Clarisse were with the blonde, Chiron sighed to himself. He was going to have to telephone Naruto and his little group of friends that he would be leaving soon. XXX. Dreamscape. In the dream, Naruto felt that he was standing on a deserted street in some little beach town. It was the middle of the night. A storm was blowing. Wind and rain ripped at the palm trees along the sidewalk. Pink and yellow stucco buildings lined the street, their windows boarded up. A block away, past a line of hibiscus bushes, the ocean churned. He felt a presence next to him and saw the astral image of Percy next to him, and it seemed that the boy knew where they were because he voiced his thoughts. Florida. Naruto had heard of the place and he did want to go there, mostly because of Disneyland. Then they heard hooves clattering against the pavement. They turned and saw my friend Grover running for his life. Grover was a satyr, so that meant he was half human, half goat. Not donkey. If he might get mad at you if you say that. Grover was one of their best friends and he went on an adventure with Annabeth to the world from an Olympian god war. That was a hell of a ride. However, they had not seen him for a while because the goat boy went on his search for Pan, the wild god. He was someone every satyr was trying to find. But it was a quest no satyr ever returned from. Anyway, in the dream, Grover was hauling goat tail, holding his human shoes in his hands, the way he does when he needs to move fast. He clocked past the little tourist shops and surfboard rental places. The wind bent the palm trees almost to the ground. Grover was terrified of something behind him. He must have just come from the beach. Wet sand was caked in his fur. He'd escaped from somewhere. He was trying to get away from something. A bone-rattling growl cut through the storm. Behind Grover, at the far end of the block, a shadowy figure loomed. It swatted aside a street lamp, which burst in a shower of sparks. Grover stumbled, whimpering in fear. He muttered to himself, "Have to get away. Have to warn them." They couldn't see what was chasing him. But they could hear it muttering and cursing. The ground shook as it got closer. Grover dashed around a street corner and faltered. He'd run into a dead-end courtyard full of shops. No time to back up. The nearest door had been blown open by the storm. The sign above the darkened display window read, "Street Augustine Bridal Boutique." Grover dashed inside. He dove behind a rack of wedding dresses. The monster's shadow passed in front of the shop. Somehow, they could smell whatever it was, sickening combination of wet sheep wool and rotten meat and that weird sour body odor only monsters have. Like a skunk that's been living off Mexican food. Grover trembled behind the wedding dresses. The monster's shadow passed on. Silence except for the rain. Grover took a deep breath. Maybe the thing was gone. Then lightning flashed. The entire front of the store exploded, and a monstrous voice bellowed, "Mine." Naruto suddenly shot up. HEWAS in his bed, which meant that someone had taken him to his room in the Aphrodite cabin. It was either Chales or Clarisse, because he doubted anyone in the cabin of the goddess of love would do that or they would break a nail. He chuckled at that though. He was the only one in the cabin who kept Aphrodite's gift for more than a few weeks. It only stopped when he started taking the poison from Talia's tree. "Naruto, Annabeth is here," called the voice of Selena. "She went to get to Percy, so you better hurry up and get ready." "Okay." Naruto laughed. He could tell that Annabeth liked the son of Poseidon. But since she was the daughter of Athena, she kept it a secret. But Naruto knew since he was good friends with her. Getting up, his thoughts returned to Grover and that odd dream. He would have to ask Percy for his opinion. Something was not right. Well, there you all go. The first chapter of this story is finally out. I will try and get more out while I job search. Good, this month is going to be hell. Oh, and there will be some fluff in this story. I decided that won't be with Naruto in the end of this series. It will be Naruto, Talia, Zoe. Tell me what you think. Clarisse will end up like canon, with that one guy from the maze. Review. Dodge. NPU. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters Chapter 2. Dodge. Glad to see that you all are enjoying this series. I honestly didn't think this was a big hit, but I guess it is. Hopefully I get a job so I can continue this story at the end of the month. Seriously, I still live with my dad. I'm 22 by the way, so his rules still apply for some reason, and if I can't get a better job than the one I got, which he calls shit, he will take away all my electronic devices and basically kick me out of the house until 4 p.m. to motivate me to get a job in this crappy economy. The fuck? My problem is that I don't have the experience needed for most jobs, and that is why they won't even consider me. Now, enough ranting, on with the show. Oh, and this part the story will have some Naruto Clarisse fluff just for fun. Ah, I had a nice night's sleep. Naruto yawned out while stretching his arms out. Annabeth shook her head. Only Naruto could shake off tea. Had deadly poison like that though, sleep and pass it off as a good night's sleep. Selena told her the boy tossed in his sleep and she doubted the idiot knew that fact. I am glad you're okay, you nut. I mean, if you died, how would Percy take it? Oh, he would be extremely sad that one of his best friends died like any normal person would be. Naruto replied with his eyes closed as he walked with his arms behind his head. That would be true, but you two are far from normal, Annabeth said with a smirk, making the blonde trip a bit at her words. Oh, that's cold, Naruto commented as they made our way to the big house so that they could Chiron that they were leaving. Mr. D couldn't care, but he suspected that man a soft spot for him. He then grew annoyed. He knew they were just getting Percy, but seriously, what was the worst that could happen? If he had his way, Annabeth would have gone by herself so that his plan on getting the two together work. But no, she insisted that he come along. I still don't know why I am coming along, Naruto said, showing his annoyance. Annabeth sighed. I told you, Percy might be in danger of some sort and I don't feel like fighting it off alone and with him. She didn't know her feeling for the boy, but with Naruto around, she didn't have to think on it much when they were together. Being with friends made it easier for her. Okay, Naruto drawled, as he opened the door the big house for her and went in after her. Hey, he was still a nice guy even though he was sarcastic and all that. Explain that annoying to DC. Why did I have to go? Because I asked you to, Chiron said with a small chuckle. Yeah, and it didn't kill you, learn a few things about this country. Annabeth input with a smirk. Still, it was boring and having to listen to you talk about all architecture in the building was driving me nuts, Naruto said with a frown before he smiled. Still, it was nice hanging out outside of camp, but seriously, you should talk Percy's ear off about that stuff. He might actually listen. Wait, you weren't even listening, Annabeth said in mock shock. She kind of figured that out by the way he responded to her some of the time. Yeah, about halfway through your rant, Naruto said with a smirk. It had seemed that the blonde girl had picked up on some of his personality and figured him out. Okay, that is enough, Chiron interrupted the playful banter. Are you two about ready? Hey, you know me. I got my clothes with seals on them to change into my Anbu gear at a moment's notice, my bracelets with my charm-like weapons on them, and my red fox shoes, which I finally figured out to work, Naruto said. His clothes changed a bit. He had on a pair of ripped jeans and a black shirt with orange flames running along the bottom with the Uzumaki symbol on the back. He had even added a pair of sunglasses that rested on his head at the moment. I am all set, Annabeth replied. I mean, we are not going on a long trip so we don't need much. Good. A taxi is waiting for you at the hill, so hurry up, Chiron replied. Righto, Naruto stated as he gave off a mock salute, getting rolled eyes from his fellow blonde. Really? We are at Percy's place. You that eager to see him? Naruto asked with a teasing smile. Oh, shut up, Annabeth blushed a bit. Look, you know where his room is, so let's go straight there. Matt, Naruto said as he put a hand on the girl's shirt. I get us outside his window just in case he is changing, or you want to see that? The blonde just smacked his shoulder as he laughed before they disappeared in a black flash once they were away from the car. Not that the drive would see that little detail thanks to the mist, but hey. They appeared on the wall since the fire escape was all rickety, which Naruto found about that the hard way a long time ago. However, Annabeth was light enough so she was fine. She leaned over to look in the window and it seemed Percy saw something because he froze up a bit. Percy, you're going to be late. They heard the voice of his mom called and Naruto sighed. Yeah, let's go before we freak her out, Naruto said. He liked Percy's mom, she was nice. Annabeth quickly nodded. Dead before they disappeared in another black flash to the car. Naruto got out of the car and looked at the building in front of him. He was so glad he decided not to tag along with Percy and go to SCH with him, or he would already be at this place. Meriwether College Prep. According to Percy's emails, it was not that great. That was mostly because of the bullies. Annabeth saw the spiky hair blonde look at the place with disinterest. So, how do you want to surprise him? Naruto rose an eyebrow before he smirked with an evil gleam in his eye, which scared the girl somewhat. Maybe asking him that was not sure a good idea. Oh, go invisible to spy on him and mess with his mind. Oh great, mental torture. Annabeth deadpanned. Yep, and it gives me a chance to test out my new darkness jutsu. Naruto replied, oh, and what is that? Quote, a jutsu that messes with the light, making people think that I am invisible. Naruto said as he performed some hand signs while walking in the door. He warned, if the door's suddenly opening with no one there would freak anyone out. Oh, I hope it does. Annabeth sighed. Sometimes she wondered about his sanity. She put on her cap and became invisible. Darkness style. Invisibility. With that, they were both invisible and they could see each other so that they wouldn't bump in each other. The duo of Naruto and Annabeth walked the halls in silence, with Naruto grinning like a madman. He had already pranked a few students into thinking that there was a ghost in the hallway because messing with them. As in messing with them, tapped them on the show. Elders before he created a few shadow clones to open the lockers and bang them around. However, his fun was cut short because Annabeth smacked him on the back of the head. Still, it was funny and he could see the hidden smile on the girl's face. Soon, Naruto found Percy's unique energy signature. Since people in this world didn't have chakra, it was harder to find someone, but if you were a demigod, you could tell who the person was by their energy because it reflected who their parent was. They found the water boy in the class that Annabeth said was a science class, thanks to all the strange-looking glass tubes and colorful chemical. He instantly saw Percy paired up with a very tall kid. Something was odd about him, but he really didn't care. Telling his invisible partner in crime to stay and watch, he went in and walked around nonchalantly. He tapped a few kids on the shoulder to mess with their heads. When they got to Percy and his tall partner, he heard what they were supposed to do. An explosion. Oh, that was so perfect. He decided to mess with the tall kid a bit and tapped in the shoulder while he was trying to grab hold of the test tubes. This action caused the tall kid to bump into the rest of the chemicals, sending them all into the trash, creating an orange mushroom cloud. Seeing this, Naruto quickly made out of the room, where the kids in the room vacated to while the hazmat team cleaned it out. The one good thing that came out of this was that Percy and his tall friend passed some test. Away from the students, Naruto was on the floor laughing his ass off while his fellow blondes scowled at him. You could have gotten them or you hurt. Oh, relax. Naruto wheezed out. I was just having fun and it seemed that they passed whatever test they had to take, so that's a plus. He paused before smiling. And another plus is that I created my favorite color. Still, it was stupid to do, Naruto. Annabeth replied with her arms crossed. Naruto smirked a bit. She was more worried about Percy getting hurt than anything. He relented and said, okay, I'll be more careful next while I am around your boyfriend. That made the girl blush before he growled and smacked, causing him to laugh. He is not my boyfriend. From that point, they observed the water boy for a bit more while he went to his next class, which was a history class that the blonde Shinobi Almo Saint fell asleep in, but Annabeth smacked him awake so that he caused any attention with his snoring. Yes, Naruto snored, loudly. It seemed that Percy got bored while doing the assignment and took out his notebook and stared at the two photos inside. When Naruto and Annabeth went to DC, they took pictures and emailed them to Percy. The first picture was of the Lincoln Memorial, but that didn't really catch his eye. What did was his friend Naruto on that stone man's shoulder, giving him bunny ears, literally. The blonde ninja was wearing a white t-shirt with crows, ripped blue jeans, a camp half-blood cap that he had on backwards and the red shoes he got from the fox he killed. Annabeth was in the picture and it seemed that she was pissed. The other picture was of said blonde girl. She was wearing jeans and a denim jacket over her orange camp half-blood t-shirt. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a bandana. She was standing in front of the Lincoln Memorial with her arms crossed, looking extremely pleased with herself. Like she'd personally designed the place. Naruto was again in this picture, but he looked very bored as he stared at the clouds. He couldn't blame the blonde, neither of him had any interest in architecture like Annabeth did, and if he had to guess, Naruto was made to come along. Percy silently chuckled at the pictures. He was glad to have them because looking at them reminded him that adventure they had was real and not from his imagination. He kind of wished the both of them were here with him because he figure out the dream he had. He wouldn't admit, but Annabeth was smarter than he was. And Naruto seemed to have the dreams like he did. He was good at figuring things out because of his shinobi skills. Percy was about to close his notebook when Matt Sloan, the local bully, reached over and ripped the photo out of the rings. "Hey," he protested. Sloan checked out the picture and his eyes got wide before he laughed at Naruto's picture. "Hey, no way, this cool guy is your friend. And this girl, she is not your. Give it back." His ears felt hot. Annabeth was not his girlfriend. Naruto rose an eyebrow as he watched this and saw Percy's embarrassment. Denial. Sloan handed the photos to his ugly buddies, who snickered and started ripping it up to make spit wads. They were new kids who must have been visiting, because they were all wearing those stupid "My name is" tags from the admissions office. They must have had a weird sense of humor, too, because they'd all filled in strange names like Marrow Sucker, Skull Eater, and Joe Bob. No human beings had names like that. "These guys are moving here next year," Sloan bragged, like that was supposed to scare the water boy. "I bet they can pay the tuition, too, unlike your retard friend." "He's not retarded," Percy defended his tall friend. "You're such a loser, Jackson. Good thing I'm gonna put you out of your misery next period," Sloan said while Percy shook with rage as he watched the idiots destroy his pictures. With Naruto and Annabeth, they saw this and sighed. Percy would always be the same. However, Naruto narrowed his eyes at the supposed new students. Something was not right with them. The duo stared at them and their forms shifted a bit thanks to the mist and their eyes widened. "Oh boy," Naruto said. "You got that right," Annabeth replied as the bell rung. She made a split-second decision and called out his name. "Percy." He seemed to hear it but shrugged it off as he and his tall friend walked away. The blonde duo rushed out of the room to see Percy and his tall, that he heard Percy call him Tyson at one point, get carried off into the gym by a bunch of rowdy kids. Naruto sighed. "Well, let's go and make sure nothing bad happens." "I have a sinking feeling that something will," Annabeth replied with a bit of worry in her voice. At first, things seemed fine in the beginning. Their coach, a very old guy by the name of Coach Nunley, didn't seem that interested in the students. He just let them all do what they want for the dodgeball game and went back to reading his Sports Illustrated magazine. Then the game began. It was Matt Sloan and his gang with the newbies against Percy, Tyson and pretty much everyone who Matt and his gang picked on. It was pretty much one-sided. When one of the huge new kids threw a ball at the sound of sound, Percy shouted, "Hey! You could kill somebody." The visitor named Joe Bob grinned at the water boy evilly. Somehow, he looked a lot bigger now, even taller than Tyson. His biceps bulged beneath his t-shirt. "I hope so, Perseus Jackson. I hope so." "Oh, that is not good." Naruto deadpanned. "You think?" Annabeth sarcastically said. All around Matt Sloan, the visitors were growing in size. They were no longer kids. They were 8-foot-tall giants with wild eyes, pointy teeth, and hairy arms tattooed with snakes and hula women and Valentine hearts. Matt Sloan dropped his ball. "Whoa, you're not from Detroit." "Who?" "The Oth." Our kids on his team started screaming and backing toward the exit, but the giant named Marrow Sucker threw a ball with deadly accuracy. It streaked past Raj Mandali just as he was about to leave and hit the door, slamming it shut like magic. Raj and some of the other kids banged on it desperately but it wouldn't budge. "Let them go," Percy yelled at the giants. The one called Joe Bob growled at me. He had a tattoo on his biceps that said, "JB loves baby cakes. And lose are tasty morsels. No, son of the sea god. We Laestrygonians aren't just playing for your death. We want lunch." He waved his H, and a new batch of dodgeballs appeared on the center line, but these balls weren't made of red rubber. They were bronze, the size of cannon balls, perforated like wiffle balls with fire bubbling out the holes. They must have been searing hot, but the giants picked them up with their bare hands. "Shit, get into gear, Annabeth. We got whatever that thing just called itself," Naruto said as his clothes changed to his Ambu armor. The blonde girl nodded and took out her knife, which Naruto sweat dropped at. "You seriously need to get something bigger." "Oh, shut up. We have to get to Percy." Annabeth H growled before the two made their way through the chaos. The giant named Skull Eater threw his ball. Percy dove aside as the fiery bronze comet sailed past his shoulder. "Corey," he screamed to his nerd-like teammate. Tyson pulled him out from behind the exercise mat just as the ball exploded against it, blasting the mat to smoking shreds. "Run," Percy told his teammates. The other exit. They ran for the locker room. But with another wave of Joe Bob's hand, that door also slammed shut. "No one leaves unless you're out," Joe Bob roared, "and you're not out until we eat you." He launched his own fireball. Percy's teammates scattered as it blasted a crater in the gym floor. When Percy reached for Riptide, which he usually kept in his pocket, but since they were in gym and he was wearing his gym clothes, well, he didn't have pockets, and that was a bit of a problem. He was completely defenseless. Where is Naruto and his jutsu when you need them? Another fireball came right for him, but Tyson pushed Percy out of The explosion still blew the water boy head over heels. He found himself sprawled on the gym floor, dazed from smoke, his tie-dyed t-shirt peppered with sizzling holes. Just across the center line, two hungry giants were glaring down at him. "Flesh," they bellowed. "Hero flesh for lunch." They both took aim. "Percy needs help," Tyson yelled, and he jumped in NT of Percy just as they threw their balls. "Tyson!" Percy screamed, but it was too late. Both balls slammed into him, but no, he'd caught them. Somehow Tyson, who was so clumsy he knocked over lab equipment and broke playground structures on a regular basis, had caught two fiery metal balls speeding toward him at a zillion miles an hour. He sent them hurtling back toward their surprised owners, who screamed "Bad!" as the bronze spheres exploded against their chests. The giants disintegrated in twin columns of flame, a sure sign they were monsters, all right. Monsters don't die. They just dissipate into smoke and dust, which saves heroes a lot of trouble cleaning up after a fight. Naruto paused in shock. "Is that normal?" he said, referring to Tyson's strength. "No," was all Annabeth said as she continued on. "My brothers," Joe Bob the cannibal wailed. He flexed his muscles and his babycake's tattoo rippled. "You will pay for their destruction." "Tyson," Percy said, "look out." Another comet hurtled toward them. Tyson just had time to swat it aside. It flew straight over Coach Nunley's head and landed in the bleachers with a huge kaboom. Naruto looked at it with a deadpan expression. "Yeah, and how does he notice that?" he said to himself. Kids were running around screaming, trying to avoid the sizzling craters in the floor. Others were banging on the door, calling for help. Sloane himself stood petrified in the middle of the court, watching in disbelief as balls of death flew around him. Coach Nunley still wasn't seeing anything. He tapped his hearing aid like the explosions were giving him interference, but he kept his eyes on his magazine. Surely the whole school could hear the noise. The headmaster, the police, somebody would come to help them. "Victory will be ours," roared Joe Bob the cannibal. "We will feast on your bones." He and his friend all hefted those giant flaming balls and aimed for Percy and Tyson. Naruto watched as Percy told Tyson to move. He was impressed with the boy's dodging skill, but he did have a few near misses. Then, when Tyson punched the one called Skull Eater, the giant went down pretty easily. However, another one of those balls came right at the tall kid. The ball caught Tyson square in the chest. He slid the length of the court and slammed into the back wall, which cracked and partially crumbled on top of him, making a hole right onto Church Street. They couldn't see how Tyson could still be alive, but he only looked dazed. The bronze ball was smoking at his feet. Tyson tried to pick it up, but he fell back, stunned, into a pile of cinder blocks. "Well," Joe Bob gloated, "I'm the last one standing. I'll have enough meat to bring babycakes a doggy bag. She might have to wait a while on that order." Naruto's voice rang out through the gym. He could not stand by anymore and watch everyone get terrorized like this. "Naruto!" Percy cried out happily. They were coming to hang out after all, but he was glad they came earlier. "Who the hell are you?" Joe Bob roared. Naruto walked around the flames with a serious expression and the monster gulped. "Oh shit. The Angel of Death." Yes, even the monsters knew him by that name. Their little adventure last year had gained a lot of attention from the monster world, even though he was the son of Hades. Naruto turned to Percy and said, "So, how are things?" Percy's eye twitched at that. Only this blonde could be so nonchalant in a situation like this. "Hey, I am still here you brats. Joe Bob roared in rage before he charged. Look out! Percy and Annabeth shouted. Naruto smirked as he held out his hand. Darkness style. Rasengan. He thrust the ball of swirling darkness in the raging monster's gut, making it twist around before shooting off, but Naruto wasn't done. He flashed away before appearing behind the fling monster. He then caught Annabeth's knife and sliced down the middle, turning the monster to dust. The blonde landed in the smoke, and when it cleared some, Percy saw his two blonde friends smiling at him. Naruto looked fine except all the soot on his skin, but with the newish clothes, he looked like the same as the knuckle-headed ninja he met a long time ago. Annabeth's face was grimy and scratched. She had a ragged backpack slung over her shoulder, her baseball cap tucked in her pocket, a bronze knife that was now in her hand, and a wild look in her storm-gray eyes. Like she'd just been chased 1,000 miles by ghosts. Matt Sloan, who'd been standing there dumbfounded the whole time, finally came to his senses. He blinked at Annabeth and Naruto, as if he dimly recognized them from Percy's notebook picture. That's the cool guy. That's the girl. Annabeth punched him in the nose and knocked him flat. And you, she told him, lay off my friend. Naruto's sweat dropped at that, but then smirked. The gym was in flames. Kids were still running around screaming. Percy heard sirens wailing and a garbled voice over the intercom. Through the glass windows of the exit doors, he could see the headmaster, Mr. Bonsai, wrestling with the lock, a crowd of teachers piling up behind him. Annabeth, Naruto, Percy stammered. How long have you? Pretty much all morning. She sheathed her bronze knife. We've been trying to find a good time to talk to you, but you were never alone. Yeah, and you can thank me for you passing grade in that science class of yours. Naruto bragged with an arm around Percy's shoulder. Percy smiled at Naruto thankfully before the words Annabeth said caught up to him and his face grew red. The shadow I saw this morning, that was. Naruto chuckled at that, muttering something along the lines someone getting in a peek, to which Annabeth punched him. Oh my gods, you were looking in my bedroom window. There's no time to explain. She snapped, though she looked a little red-faced herself. I just didn't want to. There. A woman screamed. The doors burst open and the adults came pouring in. Meet us outside, Annabeth told me, and him. She pointed to Tyson, who was still sitting dazed against the wall. Annabeth gave him a look of distaste that Percy didn't quite understand. However, he didn't have to worry about Naruto because he looked at Tyson with interest. You'd better bring him. What? Percy asked, a bit confused. No time, she said. Hurry. She then put a hand on Naruto's shoulder while he gave a salute with a smirk before black flashing away. The duo appeared on Church Street to wait for their fellow demigod and his new friend. Soon, they saw the figure of Percy running to them in his gym clothes and riptide in pen form in his hands, followed by Tyson. Here we go, Naruto said. There is the second chapter. Next time they go on a wild taxi ride to get back to camp. Review. Crazy Taxi Hags. NPU. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters Chapter 3. Crazy Taxi Hags. Okay, just so you all know, I have a plan for some of the future weapons that I mentioned in the last story, especially the Sword of Olympus. Here is a hint on how Naruto will use it, Typhon. Oh, and this week, I have been to 137 places and only a few might be hiring. This shit is just sad. And I met a few other job hunters that are having the same trouble with getting a job as me. Luckily, I have 2 interviews next week. Penn Station, a substation, and family video, in another city. Better be worth it. 4x. Naruto and Annabeth waited for Percy and Tyson in an alley down Church Street. She pulled Tyson and Percy off the sidewalk just as a fire truck screamed past, heading for Merryweather Prep. You caused quite the commotion. Naruto snickered while Percy gave in a flat look. Where'd you find him? Annabeth demanded, pointing at Tyson. Percy knew he made his peace with the girl Saint Year, but glaring at his friend like she was doing was a little harsh. Thankfully, Naruto didn't seem to mind the big guy at all. Of course, he usually got along with everyone. He's my friend, Percy told her. Is he homeless? What does that have to do with anything? He can hear you, you know. Why don't you ask him? She looked surprised. He can talk. I talk, Tyson admitted. You are pretty. Ah, Gross. Annabeth stepped away from him. Ah, don't be like that, laughed Naruto. Oh, shut up, Naruto, Annabeth roared angrily, as he backed off, knowing when to quit while ahead. Percy couldn't believe she was being so rude. He examined Tyson's hands, which he was sure must have been badly scorched by the flaming dodgeballs, but they looked fine, grimy and scarred, with dirty fingernails. Size of potato chips, but they always looked like that. Tyson, he said in disbelief. Your hands aren't even burned. Of course not, Annabeth muttered. I'm surprised the Laestrygonians had the guts to attack you with him around. Tyson seemed fascinated by Annabeth's blonde hair. He tried to touch it, but she smacked his hand away. Laestry what? Both Naruto and Percy asked. Laestrygonians. The monsters in the gym. They're a race of giant cannibals who live in the far north. Odysseus ran into them once, but I've never seen them as far south as New York before. She explained. Laestry, I can't even say that. What would you call them in English? Asked Percy. Hell if I know. I wasn't going to even both try and saw what they were. Hell, if I can even say it, how would I spell it? Naruto joked, which got Percy to laugh while Annabeth rolled eyes and muttered something about traveling with idiots. She thought about what to call them for a moment. Canadians, she decided. Now come on, we have to get out of here. Oh, that nice. Remind me not to go to Canada anytime soon, Naruto said with a smirk. The police'll be after me. Percy replied, ignoring Naruto for the moment. That's the least of our problems. She said, have you been having the dreams? The dreams? About Grover? Percy asked. Her face turned pale. Grover? No, what about Grover? I think I know what dreams he is taking about. Naruto cut in with his serious face. When something bad was happening to his friends, he got serious. Percy, in the dream, are you seeing Grover being chased in Florida by a giant thing? Yes, Percy shouted. Terrific, he said sarcastically. I still can't see why you don't see my astral image in those dreams, but I see you. I do, and that has been bugging me because I have been wanting to talk to you about that. Percy explained. Great, now we know it is true. Naruto replied. Wait, you knew about this and didn't saw anything. It has only been happening recently. Both boys shouted. Whatever, you should have at least said something before we left on the way here. Annabeth shouted at her fellow blonde. Well, I wanted to confirm it with Percy so that I was not going crazy. Naruto explained, making Annabeth calm down some. Wait, what were you dreaming about? Percy suddenly asked the blonde girl. Her eyes looked stormy, like her mind was racing a million miles an hour. Camp, she said at last. Big trouble at camp. You mean you dreamt something while he fell asleep in the taxi before the shit hit the fan? Naruto cut in. Yes, Annabeth said quietly. I didn't want to say anything to worry you. She saw Naruto close his eyes to calm himself. She didn't blame him. He was attached to that place after all, especially to Leah's tree. My mom was saying the same thing. But what kind of trouble? I don't know exactly. Something's wrong. We have to get there right away. Monsters have been chasing us all the way from Virginia, trying to stop us. Have you had a lot of attacks? Percy shook his head. None all year, until today. None. But how? Her eyes drifted to Tyson. Oh, what do you mean, oh? Percy asked, a bit annoyed at her answer. Tyson raised his hand like he was still in class. Canadians in the gym called Percy something, son of the sea god. At this, the three demigods exchanged looks. Percy looked to Naruto and the blonde blinked before saying, Don't look at me, he is your friend to explain all this to. Big guy, Percy said, you ever hear those old stories about the Greek gods? Like Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Athena. Yes, Tyson said. Well, those gods are still alive. They kind of follow Western civilization around, living in the strongest countries, so like now they're in the US. And sometimes they have kids with mortals. Kids called half-bloods. Yes, Tyson said, like he was still waiting for his friend to get to the point. Well, Annabeth, Naruto, and I are half-bloods, Percy said. We're like heroes in training. And whenever monsters pick up our scent, they attack us. That's what those giants were in the gym. Monsters. Yes. So, you believe me? Percy said, a little put off that his tall friend was talking this all calmly and understood everything. Tyson nodded. But you are, son of the sea god. Yeah, Percy admitted. My dad is Poseidon. Tyson frowned. Now he looked confused. But then, a siren wailed. A police car raced past the alley. We don't have time for this, Annabeth said. We'll talk in the taxi. A taxi all the way to camp. Percy said. You know how much money. Trust me. Percy hesitated. What about Tyson? He imagined escorting his giant friend into Camp Half-Blood. If he freaked out on a regular playground with regular bullies, how would he act at a training camp for demigods? On the other hand, the cops would be looking for us. We can't just leave him, Percy decided. He'll be in trouble, too. Then he can come with us, no biggie. Naruto replied, while Annabeth did not look happy, but agreed nonetheless. Percy idly wondered why Annabeth was not happy about seeing Tyson, but he would worry about it later. Right now they had to get out of here. Here, Annabeth stopped us on the corner of Thomas and Trimble. She fished around in her backpack. I hope I have one left. Have what? Naruto asked. While the two blondes were conversing, Percy took the time to look at them, mostly at Annabeth. She looked even worse than he had realized at first. Her chin was cut. Twigs and grass were tangled in her ponytail, as if she'd slept several nights in the open. The slashes on the hems of her jeans looked suspiciously like claw marks. Naruto didn't have any cut thanks to his healing factor, which did not surprise Percy at all. However, the male blonde's clothes were all rough and ragged like he had been in one too many fights. What are you looking for? Percy repeated Naruto's question. All around them, sirens wailed. Percy figure. It wouldn't be long before more cops cruised by, looking for juvenile delinquent gym bombers. No doubt Matt Sloan had given them a statement by now. He'd probably twisted the story around so that Tyson and Percy were the bloodthirsty cannibals. Found one. Thank the gods. Annabeth pulled out a gold coin that they recognized as a drachma, the currency of Mount Olympus. It had Zeus's likeness Sta. Mped on one side and the Empire State Building on the other. Annabeth, Percy said, New York taxi drivers won't take that. Stathi, she shouted in ancient Greek. Oh Harma Diaboles. Naruto's eye twitched at that. Chariot of damnation. Yeah, that is not ominous at all, he said as she threw her coin into the street, but instead of clattering on the asphalt, the drachma sank right through and disappeared. Oh, don't be paranoid, Naruto. You of all people should not be bothered by this stuff. I don't see why we don't just take a normal cab back to camp. Naruto huffed. You want the monsters to destroy that one too. Annabeth growled. Oh right, forgot about that. Naruto absent-mindedly as where the coin had fallen, the asphalt darkened. It melted into a rectangular pool about the size of a parking space, bubbling red liquid like blood. Then a car erupted from the ooze. It was a taxi, all right, but unlike every other taxi in New York, it wasn't yellow. It was smoky gray. I mean, it looked like it was woven out of smoke. Like you could walk right through it. There were words printed on the door, something like GYARSSIRES, but with their dyslexia made it hard for them to decipher what it said. The passenger window rolled down, and an old woman stuck her head out. She had a mop of grizzled hair covering her eyes, and she spoke in a weird mumbling way, like she'd just had a shot of Novocaine. Passage. 4 to Camp Half-Blood. Annabeth said. She opened the cab's back door and waved at them to get in, like this was all completely normal. Ack, the old woman screeched. We don't take his kind. She pointed a bony finger at Tyson. Naruto rolled his eyes. Oh brother, here, I'll give you 4 more drachma on arrival. Done. The woman screamed. Reluctantly, Percy got in, followed by Tyson, Naruto, and then Annabeth as the last one to get in. The interior was also smoky gray, but it felt solid enough. The seat was cracked and lumpy, no different than most taxis. Air was no plexiglass screen separating us from the old lady driving. Wait a minute. There wasn't just one old lady. There were 3, all crammed in the front seat, each with stringy hair covering her eyes, bony hands, and a charcoal-colored sackcloth dress. The one driving said, Long Island. Out of metro fare bonus. Ha. Oh, this should be fun. Naruto said sarcastically in his squished position between Annabeth and Tyson. Hey, it was not all bad. He was sitting next to a pretty girl. The old hag floored the accelerator, and my head slammed against the backrest. A pre-recorded voice came on over the speaker. Hi, this is Ganymede, cup-bearer to Zeus, and when I'm out buying wine for the Lord of the Skies, I always buckle up. The cab sped around the corner of West Broadway, and the gray lady sitting in the middle screeched. Look out. Go left. Well, if you'd give me the eye, Tempest, I could see that. The driver complained. Naruto eye twitched at that. Geez, this just like that Disney movie. He didn't get to say any more because the driver swerved to avoid an oncoming delivery truck, ran over the curb with a jaw-rattling thump, and flew into the next block. Wasp, the third lady said to the driver. Give me the girl's coin. I want to bite it. You bit it last time, Anger, said the driver, whose name must have been Wasp. It's my turn. Is not, yelled the one called Anger. The middle one, Tempest, screamed. Red light, brake, yelled Anger. Instead, Wasp floored the accelerator and rode up on the curb, screeching around another corner, and knocking over a newspaper box. She left Percy's stomach somewhere back on Broom Street. However, Naruto was about to lose his if things didn't improve. I think I am going to be sick. This ride is nuts. Don't get it on me. Annabeth screeched. Excuse me, Percy said to the old hags. But, can you see? No, screamed Wasp from behind the wheel. No, screamed Tempest from the middle. Of course, screamed Anger by the shotgun window. Turning to Annabeth, who usually had all the answers, seeing Naruto was trying to hold his lunch in at the moment. They're blind. Not completely, Annabeth said. They have an eye. One eye. Yeah, each. No, one eye total. Not feel so good, Tyson moaned out. I feel ya big guy. Naruto groaned, but he did hear the conversation between Percy and Annabeth. So, we got 3 old ladies and just one has an eye, oh joy. He then looked up to see the 3 arguing like no tomorrow. Oh yeah, it helps that they are all insane too. The 3 gray ladies were too busy squabbling to pay them any attention. Percy looked over at Annabeth, who was hanging on for dear life, and he gave her a why did you do this to me look. Hey, she said, Gray Sister's taxi is the fastest way to camp. Reminded me never to take this hell ride again. Naruto complained, to which Percy agreed to. Then why didn't you take it from Virginia? That's outside their service area, she said. Like that should be obvious. They only serve greater New York and surrounding communities. I so glad for that. Naruto stated. I would rather fly to be honest. We've had famous people in this cab. Anger exclaimed. Jason, you remember him. Don't remind me, Wasp wailed. And we didn't have a cab back then, you old bat. That was 3,000 years ago. Give me the tooth. Anger tried to grab at Wasp's mouth. But Wasp swatted her hand away. Only if Tempest gives me the eye. No, Tempest screeched. You had it yesterday. But I'm driving, you old hag. Excuses. Turn. That was your turn. Wasp swerved hard onto Delancey Street, squishing Percy between Tyson and the door. She punched the gas and we shot up the Williamsburg Bridge at 70 miles an hour. The 3 sisters were fighting for real now, slapping each other as Anger tried to grab at Wasp's face and Wasp tried to grab at Tempest's, with their hair flying and their mouths open, screaming at each other. Percy and Naruto realized that none of the sisters had any teeth except for Wasp, who had one mossy yellow incisor. Instead of eyes, they just had closed, sunken eyelids, except for Anger, who had one bloodshot green eye that stared at everything hungrily, as if it couldn't get enough of anything it saw. Finally Anger, who had the advantage of sight, managed to yank the tooth out of her sister Wasp's mouth. This made Wasp so mad she swerved toward the edge of the Williamsburg Bridge, yelling, I've it back. I've it back. Tyson groaned and clutched his stomach. If anybody's interested, Percy said, we're going to die. If the car crash doesn't kill me, the puke will. Naruto groaned. Don't worry, Annabeth told them, sounding pretty worried. The Gray sisters know what they're doing. They're really very wise. Yes, wise. Anger grinned in the rearview mirror, showing off her newly acquired tooth. We know things. Every street in Manhattan, Wasp bragged, still hitting her sister. The capital of Nepal, The location you seek, Tempest added. Immediately her sisters pummeled her from either side, screaming, "Be quiet! Be quiet!" He didn't even ask yet. "Are you sure about the wise thing?" Naruto asked Annabeth quietly. "They seem batshit crazy if you ask me." "Just trust me," she replied as the car swerved again, and this time the two blonde butt heads, screaming out in pain. "What?" Percy said, asking what the gray sister meant. "What location?" "I'm not seeking any." "Nothing," Tempest said. "You're right, boy, it's nothing. Tell me." "No," they all screamed. "The last time we told. It was horrible," Tempest said. "I tossed in a lake." Anger agreed. "Years to find it again." Wasp moaned. "And speaking of that, give it back." "No," yelled Anger. Wasp yelled. "Gimme." She whacked her sister Anger on the back. There was a sickening pop and something flew out of Anger's face. Anger fumbled for it, trying to catch it, but she only managed to bat it with the back of her hand. The slimy green orb sailed over her shoulder, into the backseat, and straight into Percy's lap. Said boy jumped so high at this in fright, that his head hit the ceiling as the eye fell on the floor. "I can't see," all three sisters yelled. "Give me the eye," Wasp wailed. "Give her the eye," Annabeth screamed. "I don't have it," Percy said. "There, by your foot," Annabeth said. "Don't step on it. Get it." "I'm not picking that up." The taxi slammed against the guardrail and skidded along with a horrible grinding noise. The whole car shuddered, billowing gray smoke as if it were about to dissolve from the strain. "Going to be sick," Tyson warned. "Annabeth," I yelled, "let Tyson use your backpack." "Are you crazy? Get the eye." Wasp yanked the wheel, and the taxi swerved away from the rail. We hurtled down the bridge toward Brooklyn, going faster than any human taxi. The Gray sisters screeched and pummeled each other and cried out for their eye. Seeing, as Percy was too grossed out to pick up the damn eye, Naruto decided to. "Oh screw it, not like this is not fun," he said as he reached over Tyson to get the eyeball off the ground. "Nice boy," Anger cried, as if she somehow knew he had her missing peeper. "Give it back." "Not until you explain," Naruto told her. "What were you talking about?" "The location he seeks. I am curious myself." "No time," Tempest cried, accelerating. The group looked out the window. Sure enough, trees and cars and whole neighborhoods were now zipping by in a gray blur. They were already out of Brooklyn, heading through the middle of Long Island. "Naruto," Annabeth warned, "they can't find our destination without the eye. We'll just keep accelerating until we break into a million pieces. I am willing to risk it, besides. They brought it up and this is payback for this hell ride." He told Annabeth, who paled. She hated Naruto's pranks. "All right, just tell us so we will be happy, or I'll have Percy throw it out the window." "What? YME? I don't know, convenience." Naruto replied. "Make Annabeth do it. Don't give that thing to me." Annabeth freaked. "Wait," the Gray sisters screamed. 30, 31, 75, 12. They belted it out like a quarterback calling a play. "What do you mean?" Percy asked while Naruto put on a thoughtful expression, his stomach pain forgotten. "That makes no sense." 30, 31, 75, 12. Anger wailed. "That's all we can tell you. Now give us the eye." Almost to camp. They were off the highway now, zipping through the countryside of northern Long Island. He could see Half-Blood Hill ahead of us, with its giant pine tree at the crest, Talia's tree, which contained the life force or a fallen hero. "Naruto," Annabeth screamed forcefully, "give them the eye now." "Meh, all right," Naruto replied, seeing as he wasn't going to get a better answer than that. He tossed the eye at the old hags, which landed in Wasp's lap. The old lady snatched it up, pushed it into her eye socket like somebody putting in a contact lens, and blinked. Whoa, she slammed on the brakes. The taxi spun 4 or 5 times in a cloud of smoke and squealed to a halt in the middle of the farm road at the base of Half-Blood Hill. Tyson let loose a huge belch. "Better now. Glad you feel better, big guy," Naruto said with dizzy eye before he waved his hand in front of his face. "Dude, what did you eat before coming here? Rotten onions." "All right," Percy told the Gray sisters, ignoring Naruto's complaint. "Now tell me what those numbers mean." "No time." Annabeth opened her door. "We have to get out now." Percy looked at Annabeth with a confused look on his face before he looked outside and gasped. Naruto, who saw this, growled and got out after Annabeth and saw the mayhem. At the crest of the hill was a group of campers. And they were under attack. I am gone for a little bit and this happens. Naruto growled out as he made his Anbu armor appear. Time to kick some ass. Okay, that chapter. In the next chapter, I might have one of those weapons I talked about in the last story, and it is going to be Clarisse's weapon. Review. Oh, and sorry to those who are sad about Clarisse not ending up with Naruto. They are more like best friends with some romantic moments, but that is about it in this story. Revenge of the Nerds, I mean Bulls. NPU. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters Chapter 4. Revenge of the Nerds, I mean Bulls. I have a few ideas for some fill chapter when Naruto and Clarisse are on the sea. Like Naruto having to fight someone from his own world, the last son of the monster lady. A little singing courtesy of Naruto and the crew. Got the perfect song for that in Naruto meeting Ares again, maybe a little spar too. I need more though, please give me some ideas. Naturally, as soon as they got out of the cab, the three Grey sisters hightailed it out of there. Naruto and Percy grimaced when they saw what they were up against. Bulls, again. This was bullshit. They already ND&O so fun time last time when they had to fight the Minotaur. Now they had to fight two moles made out of bronze and they were the size of freaking elephants. And even that wasn't bad enough. Naturally they had to breathe fire, too. Oh, man, said Annabeth, looking at the battle raging on the hill. Crap, Talia is weak. The bulls have gotten through. Naruto growled angrily. This was the reason he did not want to leave camp. But he at least got to fight some monsters on the way to Percy's, but still, he said he would protect the daughter of Zeus. That damn poison was getting stronger. They saw the 10 or so campers on the hill, decked out in full Greek armor trying to fend off the beasts, and it was not working so well. One of the heroes shouted, "Border Patrol," to me. A girl's voice gruff and familiar. "It's Clarisse," Annabeth said. "Come on, we have to help her." "Already on it," Naruto said while Percy was a bit skeptical. They had not told him much of what had happened. NCE he left camp to go to school and he was surprised to find out there was a border patrol. Normally, rushing to Clarisse's aid would not have been high on much of anyone's to-do list. She was one of the biggest bullies at camp. She was also a daughter of Ares, and since Percy and Naruto beat their dad last time they met, Percy was a little skeptical that they would want their help. Naruto, however, was friends with the kid of Ares. So he had to problems. Clarisse's fellow warriors were scattering, running in panic as the bulls charged. The grass was burning in huge swaths around the pine tree. One hero screamed and waved his arms as he ran in circles, the horsehair plume on his helmet blazing like a fiery mohawk. Clarisse's own armor was charred. She was fighting with a broken spear shaft, the other end embedded uselessly in the metal joint of one bull's shoulder. "While you guys decide on what to do, I am going to help," Naruto said as he pressed a spear-like charm on his right br. A celet, and out popped a large double-sided purple spear that sparked lightning every now and then. "I have new weapon I would like to introduce. It is called the Spear of Destiny." While Percy looked in awe at the new weapon, he was about to ask how the blonde got it when Naruto suddenly jumped high in the air, jumping all the way to the battle on the hill. "Incoming," Naruto shouted. The warriors all knew that voice and were very thankful to hear it. Seriously, he was one of their best fighters and it had been a pain fighting the bulls without his help. Sure, some might now trust him at the Omen because of the poison in Talia's tree, but they could always count on him in battle. They quickly got out of the way as Naruto jumped down and slammed on the sides of the spear into the bull they were fighting, or at least he though it did. It made a noticeable dent and stunned it because of the electricity, but that was it for now. Spears were not his forte, and that was why he made this for someone else. "Oi, Blondie, oh, and speak of the devil, here she is." Clarisse ran up to her friend and smirked. "About time you got your ass back here. We could really use the help. Nice spear by the way." "Thanks, I made it for you since Percy broke your last one. A nice upgrade I do say so myself since it also holds electricity," Naruto said as he handed the spear to her. However, before she could swing it around, the bull regained its senses and tried to smash them. Key word here is tried. Naruto used his speed and got the two of them out of harm's way. Thanks. Clarisse with a bit of a blush. Hey, you were friend and good one at that. No biggie, Naruto said with his trademark foxy smile. Then he got serious as he made fear and destruction appear in his hands. Time to show these beasts not to mess with Camp Half-Blood. A few minutes before, Percy and Annabeth saw Naruto land and hit the bull. Percy turned to his tall friend and saw that he was shocked. Percy's friend jumped really high. Tyson said in awe. Percy nervously chuckled at that. Naruto was going to help him explain all of this later. Uncapping his pen, making the bronze sword appear, he said, Tyson, stay here. I don't want you taking any more chances. No, Annabeth said. We need him. Percy stared at her. He's mortal. He got lucky with the dodge balls but he can't. Percy, do you know what those are up there? The Colchis bulls, made by Hephaestus himself. We can't fight them without Medea's sunscreen SPF 50,000. We'll get burned to a crisp. Medea's what? Wait, Naruto looks fine fighting those things. Annabeth rummaged through her backpack and cursed. I had a jar of tropical coconut scent sitting on my nightstand at home. Why didn't I bring it? She growled a bit at that before saying. Naruto uses those fire jutsu and he had a fire demon in him till he got to camp. He is pretty much immune to that kind of heat. Well, that is good news for him. Naruto said with a noticeable smirk. But I still have no clue what you are going on about with the sunscreen and I am not letting Tyson take another chance. Percy. Tyson, stay back. Percy raised his sword. I'm going in. Tyson tried to protest, but I was already running up the hill toward Clarisse, who was yelling at her patrol, trying to get them into phalanx formation with Naruto right next to them with his swords out and a serious look on his face. It was a good idea. The few who were listening lined up shoulder to shoulder, locking their shields to form an ox-hide and bronze wall, their spears bristling over the top like porcupine quills. Unfortunately, Clarisse could only muster 6 campers. The other 4 were still running around with their helmets on fire. Annabeth ran toward them, trying to help. She taunted one of the bulls into chasing her, then turned invisible, completely confusing the monster. The other bull charged Clarisse's line. Hold the line, Clarisse shouted as the one of the bulls shot a searing jet of flame at her and Naruto. Luckily the two got out of the way, but still that was close. The bull that had been chasing Annabeth before she was invisible got bored of looking for her and charged at Clarisse from behind. Behind you, Percy yelled. Look out. It would have been better if he had not said anything at all and let Naruto help her because all that did was startle her. Clarisse went flying backward and landed in a smoldering patch of grass. The bull charged past her, but not before blasting the other heroes with its fiery breath. Their shields melted right off their arms. They dropped their weapons and ran as bull number 2 closed in on Clarisse for the kill because as it charged at her, it also blew out some fire. Luckily, Naruto got in front of her and blocked the stream of fire with his swords, making the stream be sent off in 2 different directions. Naruto grunted as he got a good position so that the powerful stream of fire would not push him back and hit his friend. Mess with furry and you are going to get burned. He screamed as he redirected the stream back to its owner and blasted the beast back a bit. While that was happening, Percy had gotten to Clarisse and dragged her away. But felt those flames and thought Naruto was nuts for blocking them. It could microwave a frozen burrito and then turn it to ashes. Let me go. Clarisse pummeled Percy's hand. Percy, curse you. He did, just by the pine tree just to be safe while Annabeth ordered the remaining warriors to attack. Naruto didn't have to worry about that because he had his own problem at the moment. All that he had done to the bull, which was the same bull he first attacked, was blow off its horn. Now it was beyond pissed and it was charging at him now. You still wanna play? Fine. Naruto shouted as he too charged at the beast while charging up an attack he had been working on. Wind style. Udama Rasengan. Naruto shoved the large sphere of wind and chakra right on the dent of the beast. The result was the beast's armor cracking until it fell about and its back exploded from all the pressure. The bronze beast fell apart after that. Naruto smirked before his eyes widened and he fell to his knees as he clutched his arm. Damn, I forgot that the poison also affects my chakra for a bit. His whole arm felt like it was about to burst open like the bronze bull's back. But for some reason, it was on a minor scale with the rest of his body, but that was to be expected since the last time he used chakra after taking the poison away, he felt the same way. Thankfully during the trip to Percy's, he just used his swords. Naruto, are you okay? Percy asked. He wondered why that attack would hurt Naruto as well. It did not make sense. Arg, does it look like I am okay? Naruto snapped, not thinking straight. Before either boy could saw anything else, the other bull charged in before backhanding the blonde away, making him skid across the grass until he ended up next to Talia's tree, next to Clarisse. Naruto, Percy and the others shouted out. Clarisse checked him and nodded to the others that he was okay, but she glared at Percy. Ignoring the glare of the daughter of Ares, Percy sent his own at the bull that was only a few feet from him. Percy lunged the beast that hurt his friend, but it sent stream of fire, making the water boy have to roll to the side to dodge. Unfortunately, a tree root caught Percy's foot, making pain shoot through his body. The damn root sprained his ankle. Still, he was able to swing his sword at the beast, cutting off its snout. It ran away in pain and confusion. However, it regained some of its composure and glared at the water boy menacingly before it charged the son of Poseidon. Percy tried to get back up, but with his sprained ankle, he didn't get very far. Seeing her friend about to be trampled on by an elephant-sized bronze bull, Annabeth shouted, "Tyson! Help him!" Somewhere near, toward the crest of the hill, Tyson wailed, "Can't get through." Annabeth Chase, give you permission to enter camp. Thunder shook the hillside. Suddenly Tyson was there, barreling toward Percy, yelling, "Persia and new friends need help." He got between Percy and the last bull just as it sent a stream of fire towards them. "Tyson!" Percy yelled as his friend was engulfed in flames as it swirled around him like a red tornado. When the fire died, Tyson was still standing there, completely unharmed. Not even his grungy clothes were scorched. The bull must have been as surprised as Percy was, because before it could unleash a second blast, Tyson balled his fists and slammed them into the bull's face. Bad cow. His fists made a crater where the bronze bull's snout used to be. Two small columns of flame shot out of its ears. Tyson hit it again, and the bronze crumpled under his hands like aluminum foil. The bull's face now looked like a sock puppet pulled inside out. "Down!" Tyson yelled. The bull staggered and fell on its back. Its legs moved feebly in the air, steam coming out of head in odd places. Annabeth ran over to her friend and saw that his ankle was making him in pain, so she gave him some Olympian Cetar to drink and he felt a lot better thanks to its healing properties. That is when he noticed a burning smell that was coming from him, which was all the arm hair he used to have but now was singed off. Oh well, not much loss there. Thank the gods that's over. Percy said happily. You are just lucky that you are not dead. Annabeth said. Naruto said as he walked over to them. He then cracked his back, which led of a few sickening pops and said, "Yeah. That really hurt by the way." It looked like it did. Percy said. "Hey, and I am sorry for snapping. I am still getting used to that pain." Naruto said sheepishly. It was then they saw Clarisse next to the male blonde, seething. She pulled off her helmet and glared right at Percy. "You ruin everything," she screamed, her new spear strapped to her back. "I had everything completely under control until you came along. Hell, Naruto was more help than you were." Annabeth grumbled. "Good to see you too, Clarisse." "Arg," Clarisse screamed. "Don't ever try saving me again." "Clarisse," Annabeth said, "you've got wounded campers." Naruto saw that this sobered the girl up and a bit and said, "Yeah, you were their leader in this and we won. Check and see if your teammates are okay. I would go but I don't think some of them trust me still." "I'll be back," she growled, then trudged off to assess the damage. Percy the N saw his friend Tyson and said in awe and confusion, "You didn't die." Tyson looked down like he was embarrassed. "I am sorry. Came to help. Disobeyed you. My fault," Annabeth said. "I had no choice. I had to let Tyson cross the boundary line to save you since that attack knocked Naruto for a loop. Otherwise, you would have died. Glad to see we have more hands to help protect him." Naruto joked. Percy rolled his eyes at the joke. "Wait, what do you mean, let him cross the barrier?" Geez, I am surprised you have not noticed yet. Naruto groaned. What do you mean? Percy asked. Percy, Annabeth said, have you ever looked at Tyson closely? I mean, in the face. Ignore the mist, and really look at him. Percy sighed before he looked at his tall friend. Mina really looked this time and saw the mist disappear around his face area, and that made Percy's eyes widen. Tyson, Percy stammered. You're a Cyclops, Annabeth offered. A baby, by the looks of him. Probably why he couldn't get past the boundary line as easily as the bulls. Tyson's one of the homeless orphans. One of the what? They're in almost all the big cities, Annabeth said distastefully. Naruto sighed. Man, way to find out about this. He paused. Percy, this guy's like your friend here are mistakes. Children of nature, spirits and gods. Hey, well, it is just one god since he gets pretty bored. And horny. Anyway, they don't come out right and no one wants them, and I can sympathize with our large friend here that it does suck. So they get tossed out onto the streets and they grow up wild. Not sure how T-wise. On found you, but I guess it is a good thing. Annabeth glared at Tyson. Not that he noticed, and said, we should take him to Chiron, let him decide what to do. But the fire. How? He's a Cyclops. Annabeth paused, as if she were remembering something unpleasant. They work the forges of the gods. They have to be immune to fire. That's what I was trying to tell you. Percy just let his jaw drop at that, trying to figure out how he had never noticed that little fact about his tall friend. Clarisse came back over and wiped the soot off her forehead. Jackson, if you can stand, get up. We need to carry the wounded back to the big house. Let Tantalus know what's happened. Naruto, we could really use that clone technique of yours. The blonde nodded and created about 15 clones to help out, which she seemed grateful about. Tantalus, Percy asked while Naruto wondered why they had to bring everyone to that guy. He had been avoiding that man because he seemed unpleasant. The activities director, Clarisse said impatiently. Chiron is the activities director. And where's Argus? He's head of security. He should be here, Percy argued. Clarisse made a sour face. Argus got fired. You guys have been gone too long. Things are changing. Wait, what the hell do you mean? Naruto said before something clicked. I think was trying to get the nerve to tell me something before we left, but how can this be it? Yeah, he's trained kids to fight monsters for over 3,000 years. He can't just be gone. What happened? Percy asked, which Naruto grimaced. He now knew why. The gods didn't trust Chiron anymore before Talia's tree got poisoned. It seemed a new camp leader was put in charge of this place, and Naruto knew this was going to be hell. That happened, Clarisse snapped as she pointed to Talia's tree. The pine tree's needles were yellow. A huge pile of dead ones littered the base of the tree. In the center of the trunk, 3 feet from the ground, was a puncture mark the size of a bullet hole. Oozing green sap. Oh, crap, Percy said with wide eyes. Yeah, that was one of my first impression the first time I saw that as well. Naruto growled. Someone had poisoned tea. Tree and I have been doing my damn best to ease Talia's pain, but it is not doing much good since it seems to be growing stronger, and every time I take it, it gets worse. It also messes up my chakra for a time. That is why I was in pain. Naruto explained while Clarisse and Annabeth looked sadly at him. I have to do something to save Talia, Naruto declared. Okay, there we go. Review please. The Man to Prank. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters. Chapter 5. The Man to Prank. It is called procrastination. Still, I finally got this out. So yay me. God, I watch too much Disney Channel. Naruto as they walked through the camp to the big house. The forest looked a little sickly and everyone was on edge, thinking they could be attacked at a moment's notice, but they were all ready. To him, it was way too quiet. He saw that Percy seemed to be bothered by this as well. When they got to the big house, they found Chiron in his apartment, listening to his favorite 1960s lounge music while he packed his saddlebags. He was a centaur after all. From the waist up he looks like a regular middle-aged guy with curly brown hair and a scraggly beard. From the waist down, he's a white stallion. He can pass for human by compacting his lower half into a magic wheelchair. Naruto and Percy knew that form easily since he was their teacher in the last school they were in. As soon as they saw that man, Tyson froze. Pony. He screamed with stars in his eye. Chiron turned, looking offended. I beg your pardon. Annabeth ran up and hugged him. Chiron, what's happening? You're not leaving. Her voice was shaky. Chiron was like a second father to her. Chiron ruffled her hair and gave her a kindly smile. Hello, child. And Percy, my goodness. You've grown over the year. He turned to Naruto and smiled. Glad you accomplished what you set out to do. Thanks, but you can't really be fired, can you? Naruto said in all seriousness. Chiron's eyes glinted with dark humor. Ah, well, someone had to take the blame. Lord Zeus was most upset. The tree he'd created from the spirit of his daughter, poisoned. Mr. D had to punish someone. What a load horse crap. Naruto said, pun intended. But this is crazy. Annabeth cried. Chiron, you couldn't have had anything to do with poisoning Talia's tree. Nevertheless, Chiron sighed, some in Olympus do not trust me now, under the circumstances. Come on, if anyone should be banished from this place it should have been me. I couldn't protect her and this is what happens. Naruto growled. Noble of you to say, but what's been done cannot be changed. Chiron said sadly. I don't like it, Percy said with an angry scowl. He really did not like Mr. D at the moment. Chiron's face darkened. He stuffed a Latin-English dictionary into his saddlebag while the Frank Sinatra music oozed from his boom box. Tyson was still staring at Chiron in amazement. He whimpered like he wanted to pat Chiron's flank but was afraid to come closer. Pony, Chiron sniffed. My dear young Cyclops, I am a centaur. Chiron, Percy said. What about the tree? What happened? He shook his head sadly. The poison used on Talia's pine is something from the underworld, Percy. Some venom even I have never seen. It must have come from a monster quite deep in the pits of Tartarus. Then we know who's responsible. Crow. Do not invoke the Titan Lord's name, Percy. Especially not here, not now. But last summer he tried to cause a civil war in Olympus. This has to be his idea. He'd get Luke to do it, that traitor. Perhaps, Chiron said, but I fear I am being held responsible because I did not prevent it and I cannot cure it. The tree has only a few weeks of life left and less. But, Percy said then looked at Naruto, who looked away in sadness when he heard of Talia's fate. Naruto, surely you or your dad can do something, right? I have already tried that. Naruto said sadly. He said it is an older poison from whatever is in Tartarus. I offer to go there. But he told me no and I just don't know what to do. If I don't help her, that would be another promise that I would fail, and I can't have that. Percy and Annabeth looked at their blonde friend in sadness. He was losing someone dear to him and that was never something anyone wanted to know the feeling of. Annabeth then remembered what Chiron said. Unless what? No, Chiron said. A foolish thought. The whole valley is feeling the shock of the poison. The magical borders are deteriorating. The camp itself is dying. Only one source of magic would be strong enough to reverse the poison, and it was lost centuries ago. What is it? Percy asked. We'll go find it. Right. I'll do anything. Naruto offered. Chiron closed his saddlebag. He pressed the stop button on his boom box. He then turned. Ned rested his hands on the two boys' shoulders, looking them both in the eyes. Naruto, Percy, you must promise me that you will not act rashly. I told your mother, Percy, that I did not want you coming here. Even though Naruto brought you here anyway. It has gotten too dangerous. But now that you are here, stay here. Train hard. Learn to fight. But do not leave. Why? Percy asked. I want to do something. I can't just let the borders fail. The whole camp will be overrun by monsters, Chiron said. Yes, I fear so. But you must not let yourself be baited into hasty action. This could be a trap of the Titan Lord. Remember last summer, he almost took your life. As Percy reflected on what happened last year, Naruto growled. I am not going to sit here and let her die. We could do something about and when that time comes I am going to take it. I will not let her die. Hell, don't even know how to bring her back if she did. Naruto. You do realize that if you tried that, you or someone else would have to take her place. Chiron said in all seriousness. I know. But if there is one technique out there that does not have that effect, I will use it if she does die, but like I said, I will not let her die. Naruto all but shouted. Chiron sighed and he patted the boy on the shoulder. I know it is not easy, but please until there is a way, stay here. Fine. Naruto while Annabeth was trying hard not to cry. Chiron brushed a tear from her cheek. You and Naruto stay with Percy, he told her. Keep him safe. The prophecy remember it. I will, she said. Like I am going to let him die. Naruto grumbled out. Percy said. Would this be the super dangerous prophecy that has me in it, but the gods have forbidden you to tell me about? Nobody answered. Right, I muttered. Just checking. Chiron, Annabeth said. You told me the gods made you immortal only so long as you were needed to train heroes. If they dismiss you from camp, swear you two will do your best to keep Percy from danger. He insisted. Swear upon the river Styx. I swear it upon the river Styx, the two stated. Thunder rumbled outside. Very well, Chiron said. He seemed to relax just a little. Perhaps my name will be cleared and I shall return. Until then, I go to visit my wild kinsmen in the Everglades. It's possible they know of some cure for the poison tree that I have forgotten. In any event, I will stay in exile until this matter is resolved, one way or another. Naruto crossed his arms. For everyone's sake, it better be. Annabeth stifled a sob. Chiron patted her shoulder awkwardly. There, now, children. I must entrust your safety to Mr. D and the new activities director. We must hope. Well, perhaps they won't destroy the camp quite as quickly as I fear. Who is this Tantalus guy, anyway? Percy demanded. Where does he get off taking your job? I have been wondering about that too. Naruto commented. A conch horn blew across the valley. It was already that late. It was time for the campers to assemble for dinner. Go, Chiron said. You will meet him at the pavilion. I will contact your mother, Percy, and let her know you're safe. No doubt she'll be worried by now. Just remember my warning. You are in grave danger. Do not think for a moment that the Titan Lord has forgotten you. With that, he clopped out of the apartment and down the hall, Tyson calling after him, Pony. Don't go. Percy realized he'd forgotten to tell Chiron about the dream he and Naruto had of Grover. Now it was too late. The best teacher he'd ever had was gone, maybe for good. Tyson started bawling almost as bad as Annabeth. Naruto looked at Percy and nodded his head at the crying blonde. Percy understood and tried to tell her it was okay while Naruto decided to comfort the young Cyclops. But none of them thought it was going to be okay for a while. Things were defiantly going south. The sun was setting behind the dining pavilion as the campers came up from their cabins. The little group stood in the shadow of a marble column and watched them file in. Annabeth was still pretty shaken up, but she promised she'd talk to the boys later. Then she went off to join her I blings from the Athena cabin, a dozen boys and girls with blonde hair and gray eyes like hers. Annabeth wasn't the oldest, but she'd been at camp more summers than just about anybody. You could tell by looking at her camp necklace, one bead for every summer, and Annabeth had 6. No one questioned her right to lead the line. Then Naruto left to go with the Aphrodite kids, who seemed to smile at him brightly as he made his way over to them. They were not that strong in battle and they knew it. So they were glad to have him in their cabin. Percy knew that feeling well. Anyone felt safe with the blonde shinobi, despite who his dad was. So he was basically their leader, apart from Selena. Next came Clarisse, leading the Ares cabin. She had one arm in a sling and a nasty-looking gash on her cheek. But otherwise her encounter with the bronze bulls didn't seem to have fazed her. Someone had taped a piece of paper to her back that said, "You moo, girl." But nobody in her cabin was bothering to tell her about it. After the Ares kids came the Hephaestus cabin, 6 guys led by Charles Beckendorf, a big 15-year-old African-American kid. He had hands the size of catcher's mitts and a face that was hard and squinty from looking into a blacksmith's forge all day. He was nice enough once you got to know him, but no one ever called him Charlie or Chuck or Charles. Most just called him Beckendorf. Rumor was he could make anything. Give him a chunk of metal and he could create a razor-sharp sword or a robotic warrior or a singing birdbath for your grandmother's garden. Whatever you wanted. The other cabins filed in. Demeter, Apollo, Aphrodite, Dionysus. Naiads came up from the canoe lake. Dryads melted out of the trees. From the meadow came a dozen satyrs. After the satyrs filed into dinner, the Hermes cabin brought up the rear. They were always the biggest cabin. Last summer, it had been led by Luke, the guy who'd fought with Talia and Annabeth on top of Half-Blood Hill. Now Hermes cabin was led by Travis and Connor Stoll. They weren't twins, but they looked so much alike it didn't matter. Neither Naruto or Percy could remember who was older, but it didn't really matter. Now the Hermes cabin was led by Travis and Connor Stoll. They weren't twins, but they looked so much alike it didn't matter. I could never remember which one was older. They were both tall and skinny, with mops of brown hair that hung in their eyes. They wore orange camp Half-Blood t-shirts untucked over baggy shorts, and they had those elfish features all Hermes's kids had: upturned eyebrows, sarcastic smiles, a gleam in their eyes whenever they looked at you like they were about to drop a firecracker down your shirt. Percy grinned nervously in their direction because before he left last year, he was caught in one of their pranks, one that included Naruto. The trio was the prank trio from hell, especially after what happened. As soon as the last campers had filed in, Percy led Tyson into the middle of the pavilion. Conversations faltered, heads turned. Who invited that? Somebody at the Apollo table murmured. From the head table a familiar voice drawled, well, if it isn't Peter Johnson. My millennium is complete. Quote. Percy gritted his teeth. Percy Jackson, sir. Mr. D sipped his Diet Coke. Yes, well, as you young people say these days, whatever. Besides, we got the ninja back, so, yay. Even though some didn't trust Naruto for what happened to the tree, they were in agreement with Mr. D. Naruto was their best fighter and they too were glad he was back. Mr. D was wearing his usual leopard pattern Hawaiian shirt, walking shorts, and tennis shoes with black socks. With his pudgy belly and his blotchy red face, he looked like a Las Vegas tourist who'd stayed up too late in the casinos. Behind him, a nervous-looking satyr was peeling the skins off grapes and handing them to Mr. D one at a time. Mr. D's real name is Dionysus, the god of wine. Zeus appointed him rector of Camp Half-Blood to dry out for 100 years, a punishment for chasing some off-limits wood nymph. Next to him, where Chiron usually sat or stood, in centaur form, was someone Naruto and Percy had never seen before: a pale, horribly thin man in a threadbare orange prisoner's jumpsuit. The number over his pocket read 0001. He had blue shadows under his eyes, dirty fingernails, and badly cut gray hair. Like his last haircut had been done with a weed whacker. He stared at me, his eyes made me nervous. He looked fractured, angry and frustrated and hungry all at the same time. This boy, Dionysus told him. You need to watch. Poseidon's child, you know. Ah, the prisoner said. That one. His tone made it obvious that he and Dionysus had already discussed Percy at length. So, the son of death is surprisingly not the bad one. No, Mr. D said. He rather liked the boy, not that he would ever say it out loud. Damn kid had all the luck in card games. I am Tantalus, the prisoner said, smiling coldly. On special assignment here until my lord Dionysus decides otherwise. And you, Perseus Jackson, I do expect you to refrain from causing any more trouble. Trouble? Percy demanded while Naruto's eye twitched when he heard that. Dionysus snapped his fingers. A newspaper appeared on the table, the front page of today's New York Post. There was Percy's yearbook picture from Merriweather Prep. It was hard for the water boy to make out the headline, but he had a pretty good guess what it said. Something like, 13-year-old lunatic torches gymnasium. Naruto appeared next to Percy and said while looking at the headline. Looks like you're in the ringer again. Great. Just what I needed. Percy groaned while his blonde friend Black flashed back over to the Aphrodite table, shocking Tantalus. Yes, trouble, Tantalus said with satisfaction, after he recovered from his shock at Naruto. You caused plenty of it last summer, I understand. Percy was too mad to speak. This guy was pissing him off. A satyr inched forward nervously and set a plate of barbecue in front of Tantalus. The new activities director licked his lips. He looked at his empty goblet and said, root beer. Barks Special Stock, 1967. The glass filled itself with foamy soda. Tantalus stretched out his hand hesitantly, as if he were afraid the goblet was hot. Go on, then, old fellow, Dionysus said, a strange sparkle in his eyes. Perhaps now it will work. Tantalus grabbed for the glass, but it scooted away before he could touch it. A few drops of root beer spilled, and Tantalus tried to dab them up with his fingers, but the drops rolled away like quicksilver before he could touch them. He growled and turned toward the plate of barbecue. He picked up a fork and tried to stab a piece of brisket. But the plate skittered down the table and flew off the end, straight into the coals of the brazier. Blast, Tantalus muttered. Ah, well, Dionysus said, his voice dripping with false sympathy. Perhaps a few more days. Believe me, old chap, working at this camp will be torture enough. I'm sure your old curse will fade eventually. Eventually, muttered Tantalus, staring at Dionysus's Diet Coke. Do you have any idea how dry one's throat gets after 3,000 years? You're that spirit from the fields of punishment, Percy said with wide eyes. The one who stands in the lake with the fruit tree hanging over you, but you can't eat or drink. Tantalus sneered at Percy. A real scholar, aren't you, boy? You must have done something really horrible when you were alive, I said, mildly impressed. What was it? Tantalus's eyes narrowed. Behind him, the satyrs were shaking their heads vigorously, trying to warn the poor fool. I'll be watching you, Percy Jackson, Tantalus said. I don't want any problems at my camp. Your camp has problems already, sir. Oh, go sit down, Johnson, Dionysus sighed. I believe that table over there is yours, the one where no one else ever wants to sit. Percy glared at Mr. D with a red face, but he could do nothing. However, that was interrupted when they heard a snickering coming from the Aphrodite table. Mr. D looked right at the blonde ninja who was making the noise. May I ask what it is so funny, Nathan? It's Naruto. Naruto corrected with a good-natured smile. And I was just thinking that I am going to have some fun this year. Especially with our new camp counselor. He said with a wide fox smile that made the whole camp shiver. They all knew that smile and some looked the Hermes cabin and saw that the Stroll brothers had the same smile. A prank was going to happen in the next few days. Sad thing was thought no one will ever be able to pin it on the blonde, because no one ever got enough evidence. Percy kind of felt sorry for Tantalus. Kind of. Percy was glad Naruto was there to cheer him up somewhat. He turned to Tyson and said, come on. Oh, no, Tantalus said. The monster stays here. We must decide what to do with it. Him. Percy snapped. His name is Tyson. The new activities director raised an eyebrow. Tyson saved the camp, Percy insisted. He pounded those bronze bulls. Otherwise they would have burned down this whole place. Yes, Tantalus sighed, and what a pity that would have been. Dionysus snickered. Leave us, Tantalus ordered, while we decide this creature's fate. Percy grit his teeth at the order. But he knew he could not disobey it. I'll be right over here, big guy, Percy promised. Don't worry, we'll find you a good place to sleep tonight. Tyson nodded. I believe you. You are my friend. With that, Percy trudged over his table where he was the only one to sit there. He hoped things would be okay for his Cyclops friend. When a wood nymph brought over some food, he took it. But he was not hungry. He was too busy thinking on what had happened so far. But before he let it go to waste, he scraped some of it into the flames to offer some to his dad. Poseidon, accept my offering. As he went back to his table, he looked over to Naruto, who was digging into ramen. That figured, that was all he had back in school. However, he really hoped that the blonde made good on his fun with the new camp counselor. Just as he sat down again, one of the satyrs blew the horn again, tell them all that Tantalus had more to say. Yes, well, Tantalus said, once the talking had died down. Another fine meal, or so I am told. As he spoke, he inched his hand toward his refilled dinner plate, as if maybe the food wouldn't notice what he was doing, but it did. It shot away down the table as soon as he got within 6 inches. This just made Naruto grin like a madman as a good prank came to mind. Oh yes, this would be very fun. And here on my first day of authority, he continued, I'd like to say what a pleasant form of punishment it is to be here. Over the course of the summer, I hope to torture Interact with each and every one of you children. You all look good enough to eat. Dionysus clapped politely, leading to some half-hearted applause from the satyrs. Tyson was still standing at the head table, looking uncomfortable, but every time he tried to scoot out of the limelight, Tantalus pulled him back. And now some changes. Tantalus gave the campers a crooked smile. We are reinstituting the chariot races. Murmuring broke out at all the table's excitement, fear, disbelief. Now I know, Tantalus continued, raising his voice, that these races were discontinued some years ago due to, technical problems. 3 deaths and 26 mutilations. Someone at the Apollo table called. Yes, Tantalus said, but I know that you will all join me in welcoming the return of this camp tradition. Golden laurels will go to the winning charioteers each month. Teams may register in the morning. The first race will be held in 3 days' time. We will release you from most of your regular activities to prepare your chariots and choose your horses. Oh, and did I mention? The victorious team's cabin will have no chores for the month in which they win. An explosion of excited conversation. No KP for a whole month. No stable cleaning. Was he serious? But, sir, Clarisse said. She looked nervous, but she stood up to speak from the Ares table. Some of the campers snickered when they saw the Yumu girl sign on her back. Thankfully, Naruto snapped his fingers when he saw it, and it went up in black flames that never touched her. She sent a thankful smile in his direction. What about patrol duty? I mean, if we drop everything to ready our chariots. The hero of the day, Tantalus exclaimed. Brave Clarisse, who single-handedly bested the bronze bulls. Clarisse blinked, then blushed. I didn't. You mean that why? Oh, you are congratulating her on her leadership in rallying what forces she could to defend the camp until more help arrived. Naruto interjected, making the girl blush even more at his kind words. Yes, Hat, and I suppose I should congratulate you as well for your quick thinking in battle to take one down with whatever weird-ass ninja technique you used to help her. Tantalus said with extreme boredom. Anyway, not to worry. This is a summer camp. We are here to enjoy ourselves, yes. But the tree, Clarisse tried to say but was cut off by the man again. And now, Tantalus said, as several of Larissa's cabin mates pulled her back into her seat, before we proceed to the campfire and sing along, one slight housekeeping issue. Percy Jackson and Annabeth Chase have seen fit, for some reason, to bring this here. Tantalus waved a hand toward Tyson. Uneasy murmuring spread among the campers. A lot of sideways looks at Percy. The boy wanted to kill Tantalus. Now, of course, he said, CYC. Lopez have a reputation for being bloodthirsty monsters with a very small brain capacity. Under normal circumstances, I would release this beast into the woods and have you hunt it down with torches and pointed sticks. But who knows? Perhaps this Cyclops is not as horrible as most of its brethren. Until it proves worthy of destruction, we need a place to keep it. I've thought about the stables, but that will make the horses nervous. Hermes's cabin, possibly. Silence at the Hermes table. Travis and Connor Stoll developed a sudden interest in the tablecloth. Percy couldn't blame them. The Hermes cabin was always full to bursting. There was no way they could take in a 6'3" Cyclops. Come now, Tantalus chided. The monster may be able to do some menial chores. Any suggestions as to where such a beast should be kenneled? Quote. Suddenly everybody gasped. Well, Naruto smiled like a madman. Tantalus scooted away from Tyson in surprise. There above Tyson's head was the same symbol that was above Percy's head last year. The symbol of Poseidon. Naruto smirked. At least his friend would not be lonely in his cabin and table anymore. This also meant that Tyson was probably going to be in the gang from now on. There was a moment of odd silence. Being claimed was a rare event. Some campers waited in vain for it their whole lives. When Naruto and Percy had been claimed by their godly parents last summer, everyone had reverently knelt. But now, they followed Tantalus's lead, and Tantalus roared with laughter. Well, I think we know where to put the beast now. By the gods, I can see the family resemblance. Everyone laughed except for Percy, Annabeth, Naruto and a few of their friends. Naruto glared at Tantalus while thinking of horrible ways to prank the man. He already had a few. Tyson didn't seem to notice. He was too mystified. trying to swat the glowing trident that was now fading over his head. He was too innocent to understand how much they were making fun of him, how cruel people were. One person, who was not laughing, said the one thing that was on his mind. "This is madness, madness," Naruto said aloud softly, but everyone heard him and raised an eyebrow before Naruto looked up with a crazy smirk. "This is Sparta, yeah," cheered the Ares cabin before one of them looked at Naruto in confusion. "Wait, what?" Naruto shrugged. "Sorry, I saw that movie last year and have waiting for a setup for that. Seriously," he said to the deadly quiet camp before everyone burst out laughing. Annabeth smiled at her fellow blonde. He really knew how to make a situation a bit better. Even it was for a few minutes. "Well, there you all go. I figured with last week's job, you all have waited long enough. I wanted to have this done by yesterday, but I am lazy. I have one prank in mind for Tantalus and it will be awesome, but can some of you give me some ideas?" Review. What is with the demon pigeons? Welcome to the Sea of Monsters. Chapter 6. What is with the freaky demon pigeons? I want to thank everyone for the ideas, but I am using Shadow Rider 329's ideas. I think they are the best along with the one I thought of. The next few days would have been hell for the camp, but thanks to Naruto, it was actually bearable, especially after he pranked Tantalus and of course, Naruto was never caught. Naruto smiled at what he had done to the annoying man. The morning, after he had come back with the others, he did a prank that was a bit cartoonish. Flashback. Everyone was a bit tired seeing as it was still morning and mostly everyone wanted to still be asleep, Tantalus all got them up from their peaceful sleep. As soon as they all sat down, Naruto smirked as he saw Tantalus notice a rather good-looking donut was on his plate. It had sprinkles. The girls that he was sitting with all quieted down when they saw that look and saw that he was staring at Tantalus. Soon, the somewhat quiet dining hall was extremely quiet, wondering what Naruto had in store for them today. Mr. D noticed all this and inwardly smirked. He really did like this blonde, but not even he knew what was about to happen. Tantalus stared at the donut with sprinkles with childlike wonder, completely ignoring everything and everyone else around him as he made a grab at the piece of food that wanted so badly. However, it hopped away like usual, but this time it was different. It suddenly grew eyes, arms, and legs. The two stared at each other in shock for a few minutes, with Tantalus trying to figure out if he had gone insane or not, well more insane than he already was. Suddenly, the donut screamed in fear. "Ah, ah," Tantalus let out. "Ah, ah." This went on for about a minute as everyone just stared in shock at what they were seeing. A freaking talking and walking donut with sprinkles was having a freaking screaming contest with Tantalus of all people. Then it took out a top hat and cane and begun to sing in a deep voice. "Hello my baby, hello my ragtime gal, send me a kiss by wire. Baby my heart's on fire. If you refuse me, honey you'll lose me. Then you'll be left alone, oh baby. Telephone and tell me I your own." "Ah," it sang before scooped up by an annoyed Tantalus and screaming as it was about to be eaten. However, he should have known it was too good to be true because of the fact that it went poof as soon as he bit down on it and he held his mouth in pain. There before him was a metal hockey puck with a hole in it like a donut. It was just too much for everyone to bear as they all fell out of their seats with uncontrollable laughter. Including Naruto who could not believe the man had fallen for that. Even the satyrs and Mr. D were in the uproar of laughter. Tantalus just grumbled to himself, intent on finding out who did that to him. Yeah, laugh it up while you can." End flashback. Naruto chuckled at the memory some more as he stared out onto the lake. Tantalus had been furious but he never caught the blonde, the blonde for the rest of the day, with the other camper smirking at him and patting him on the back for a good wake me up. To be honest, he got that idea after watching an old cartoon on the WB and ironically, it was a frog who sung that song. His next few pranks made everyone laugh even harder. The day after that prank, Naruto had installed small speakers in the man's room that night and the morning he muttered random catchphrases the whole day. He had set the speakers to play commercials for all types of food from McDonald's and a good number of other fast food. The man broke down after saying, "I'm loving it. For the 100th time that day, Mr. D found the man quivering behind the big house and muttering random phrases with tears running down his face like he had gone insane. After that, Naruto did a simple prank by setting up a fake wall that had a picture of any kind of food Tantalus loved the most. It also the smell of it as well, so much so that it made the man lose count of himself, and he ran straight into it, which was quite funny to see the man face plant into it before it disappeared, leaving no trace that it had been there. The last prank he had pulled was a dinner. Naruto had placed a jar of honey on the man's table before it started, and the man was suspicious of it. For good reason too, because as soon as he reached for it, moved to the side like it usually did, but this time it came with consequences. The reason for that was because Naruto had put a beehive into the jar and it was full of angry bees. The movement had been the final straw for the bees, because they blast out of the jar and went straight for Tantalus, who tried to run away, mostly to the lake, but it was still drinkable, so it parted away from him, giving him no protection for the many bee stings. It pretty hard for anyone to eat because every time they heard him scream like a girl throughout the woods, they had to laugh. There was one time that he even screamed out for his mommy to save him. All in all, it had been a fun couple of days. "Hey Naruto," a gruff female voice called out. Naruto turned and smiled when he saw his friend Clarisse stand behind him. "Hey, what's up? Quote, I want you to be my partner in the chariot races that is in a few days," Clarisse said, not giving much room for argument. "I mean, the kids of war and death is a pretty badass combination, right?" Naruto chuckled. She made a valid point. It was like they were meant to win a contest like this. "Sure, I have no problem with that." Clarisse smiled. "Cool, now let's make sure we win this," she said as they went to work. Currently, Naruto was working a pet project of his, the Hell Bike, in the Hephaestus workshop. Since he was good making things, he was welcomed there anytime he wanted. So far, he was half done. He didn't get a chance to work on it yesterday because he worked on his and Clarisse's chariot while also sparring with Percy since the boy could not get a decent spar. He could understand why the boy didn't want to fight Clarisse though. She was a bit rough after all, however, so was he. Another thing he pondered on was Tyson. The young Cyclops was a good guy and he was really handy. Hell, Beckendorf got the guy working in the workshop. He wondered what the big guy was making. "Naruto, you in there?" came the voice of Annabeth. "Yeah," Naruto said as he put down his tools and got up to see his fellow blonde. "Whatcha need? I was wondering if you wanted me as your partner for the chariot races," the girl said. Naruto raised an eyebrow with a smirk. "You and Percy have a fight or something?" "How could you tell? Simple. You don't look happy and I thought you were doing to do the race with him since you make a good team," Naruto said truthfully. "We had a fight, abo. Ut his half-brother, and we decided to do this separately. He was defending Tyson and I was just getting anger because of past experiences." "Yeah, I figured as much. You seemed wary of the big baby," Naruto said with a chuckle before his face went serious. "Talia told me what happened the last time I talked to her. I understand your wariness of the guy, but give him a chance. Not everything is the same." "I know," Annabeth said sadly before she locked eyes with the blonde. "You saying that from experience?" "Hell yeah," Naruto said, "mostly from my time as a Jinchuriki. I proved that I was a good GU while most people think that Jinchuriki are evil because of what we hold. So, just give the guy a chance, if not for me, then for Percy." Annabeth smiled. Naruto was right. "Thanks, I'll try," she said, happy to have a friend like him. "So you didn't answer my question." "Yeah, sorry about that, but I already have a partner. Clarisse," Naruto said, making the girl shiver. "Oh geez," Annabeth said, "that is a match made in hell. You guys are going to be tough to beat." "Hey, that's the point," Naruto said with a smirk. He had a look on his face like he just remembered something. "Oh, I almost forgot." Naruto then rushed over to his workbench and picked up an rather odd and wicked-looking short sword with strange red designs in the middle of the blade. "This is the blade of Athena. Heck, I even got Athena bless it with her power," she said as he handed the blade to her. It looked a bit heavy, but it was the perfect weight for the girl as she examined the blade. "You made this for me?" "Well yeah," Naruto said. I am making weapons for all my friends. The name sounds familiar. It should, it is basically the weapon of choice in the God of War 3 game. Although, Athena, never told me what special power yours has, guess you will just have to figure that out on your own. And if you become proficient in using that, I will make the other one for you. Annabeth smiled again. Naruto really was a good guy. Thanks Naruto. No problem. Can't be using just that dinky little dagger for the rest of your life. Naruto said. Besides, with your skill in battle, I am sure you'll figure out a way to use both in battle. Quote, you bet. Annabeth chuckled before she got up. Well, I better get back to the others if we want to get our chariot done. She said before giving her fellow Blonde a hug and then leaving the room so that he could continue his work. Well, this should be interesting. Naruto said before he looked to the other side the room where a giant block of metal stood. Might well get started on Beckendorf's new weapon. He then looked at the weapon designs that he had on the workbench. Still, what should I make for Percy? Later that night, he had a strange dream. It was like the other dreams he and Percy have been having about Grover, who was always in a freaking wedding dress. It didn't fit him very well. The gown was too long and the hem was caked with dried mud. The neckline kept falling off his shoulders. A tattered veil covered his face. He was standing in a dank cave, lit only by torches. There was a cot in one corner and an old-fashioned loom in the other. A length of white cloth half-woven on the frame. And he was staring right at the two boys, like it was a TV program he'd been waiting for. Thank the gods, he yelped. Can you two hear me? Percy was slow to respond, still not believing what he was seeing, even in his dream. However, Naruto, who was used to this type of stuff thanks to his limbo power, answered, wow, talk about interactive, funny. Grover deadpanned. Percy, please respond. Can you hear me as well? I hear you, Percy said. Grover, what's going on? From behind the boulder, a monstrous voice yelled, Honeybee. Are you done yet? Grover flinched. He called out in falsetto, not quite, dearest. A few more days. Bah, hasn't it been 2 weeks yet? And no, dearest, just 5 days. That leaves 12 more to go. The monster was silent, maybe trying to do the math. He must have been worse at arithmetic than I was, because he said, all right, but hurry. I want to see under that veil, hey haha. Oh man, what have you gotten yourself into that you are the girl in the relationship? Naruto laughed. Cut the crap, Grover roared, a bit freaked out as he turned back to the two boys. You have to help me. No time, I'm stuck in this cave. On an island in the sea. Yeah, that's helpful. Naruto deadpanned. Where? Asked Percy. I don't know exactly. I went to Florida and turned left. Wait, what? Both boys asked, not getting it. It's a trap, Grover said. It's the reason no satyr has ever returned from this quest. He's a shepherd, Percy. And he has it. Its nature magic is so powerful it smells just like the great god. Pan. The satyrs come here thinking they've found Pan, and they get trapped and eaten by Polyphemus. Polly who? Asked Percy. Naruto groaned. That giant cyclops. Right, Grover said hurriedly. I almost got away. I made it all the way to St. Augustine. But he followed you, Percy said, remembering the first dream. And trapped you in a bridal boutique. You have to admit that is kind of funny. Naruto said with a chuckle. It gave you the perfect disguise, but also screwed you over as well. Don't remind me, Grover cried. My first empathy link with the two of you must have worked then. Look, this bridal dress is the only thing keeping me alive. He thinks I smell good, but I told him it was just goat-scented perfume. Thank goodness he can't see very well. His eye is still half blind from the last time somebody poked it out. But soon he'll realize what I am. He's only giving me 2 weeks to finish the bridal train, and he's getting impatient. Wait a minute, this Cyclops thinks you're... Yes, Grover wailed. He thinks I'm a lady Cyclops and he wants to marry me. The two stared at their goat-like friend in seriousness. It would have been funny if he was joking. But Grover sounded as scared as hell. What can we do to help? Naruto asked with a grim expression. He can be a joker most of the time, but he knew when to be serious. I am in the sea of monster. Get me out of here, Grover cried. making Naruto's eye twitch that his friend had gotten stuck there of all places. "Where is that?" asked Percy, confused as hell. Naruto groaned. "The way you described how you got there. It sounds like you are actually in the Bermuda Triangle." "That's your best bet," Grover said before he looked at them nervously. "And, I am sorry about this you guys, but this empathy link, well. I had no choice. Our emotions are connected now. If I die, don't tell me, we'll die too." Percy deadpanned. "Oh great, no pressure there," Naruto grumbled. "Oh, well, perhaps not. You might live for years in a vegetative state. But, it would be a lot better if you got me out of here," Grover said, making Naruto's eyebrow twitch in annoyance. "Honeybee," the monster bellowed. "Dinner time. Yummy yummy sheep meat," Grover whimpered. "I have to go. Hurry. Wait, you said it was here." "What?" But Grover's voice was already growing fainter. "Sweet dreams. Don't let me die." With that, Grover disappeared from the dream, but Percy and Naruto was still there. What did he mean though? Well, he did say it held a lot of nature energy, so it must be important, Naruto said before he looked to the son of Poseidon. "Percy, let's wait to tell Annabeth and the others about this later. Knowing Tantalus, he won't care. So let's make sure either one of us win that race tomorrow. We could say that we want a quest to save Grover's ass." "Right, good luck," Percy said. Naruto smirked. "You too, water boy," Naruto said before he too disappeared from the dream. The morning of the race was hot and humid. Fog lay low on the ground like sauna steam. Millions of birds were roosting in the trees, fat gray and white pigeons, except they didn't coo like regular pigeons. They made this annoying metallic screeching sound that reminded them of submarine radar. The racetrack had been built in a grassy field between the archery range and the woods. Hephaestus's cabin had used the bronze bulls, which were completely tamed since they'd had their heads smashed in and their back blown out, to plow an oval track in a matter of minutes. There were rows of stone steps for the spectators, Tantalus, the satyrs, a few dryads, and all of the campers who weren't participating. Mr. D didn't show. He never got up before 10 o'clock. "Right," Tantalus announced as the teams began to assemble. His right eye and pretty much that part of his face would twitch thanks to Naruto's pranks. He still had the bee stings as well. A naiad had brought him a big platter of pastries, and as Tantalus spoke, his right hand chased a chocolate eclair across the judge's table. "You all know the rules. A quarter-mile track, twice around to win. 2 horses per chariot. Each team will consist of a driver and a fighter. Weapons are allowed. Dirty tricks are expected, but try not to kill anybody." Tantalus smiled at them like they were all naughty children. "Any killing will result in harsh punishment. No s'mores at the campfire for a week. Now ready your chariots." "That's harsh," Naruto thought. Beckendorf led the Hephaestus team onto the track. They had a sweet ride made of bronze and iron, even the horses, which were magical automatons like the Colchis bulls. They had no doubt that their chariot had all kinds of mechanical traps and more fancy options than a fully loaded Maserati. Since Naruto and Clarisse were partners, their chariot was pretty wicked looking. It was basically the freaky face chariot that one would see in the Hercules movie that Hades flew on to free the Titans. However, the face was blood red while rest of it looked black, even the wing-like attachments. It also looked like it had black energy raising off of it. The skeletal horses were the same way. It was full of nasty toys to make sure they won, making Percy and a lot of other pale. Apollo's chariot was trim and graceful and completely gold, pulled by 2 beautiful palominos. Their fighter was armed with a bow, though he had promised not to shoot regular pointed arrows at the opposing drivers. Hermes's chariot was green and kind of old-looking, as if it hadn't been out of the garage in years. It didn't look like anything special, but it was manned by the Stoll brothers, and Percy shuddered to think what dirty tricks they'd schemed up. Especially if Naruto had teamed up with them. That left Annabeth's and Percy's. Naruto looked to see them arguing and the blonde say Annabeth pale a bit at one thing he said. "Geez, I tell him to wait and goes and does what he wants. Meh, I am not surprised," Naruto mumbled out. "I can only assume she knows now." "Who knows what?" Clarisse asked as she got in the chariot. "Oh, Percy told Annabeth something from last night. Let's just say we have more of a reason to win now." Naruto said. Getting a questioning look, he elaborated. Grover is in trouble, he told us through an empathy link, or whatever the hell the thing is called. Clarisse's eyes widened in understand before she nodded. She was more determined to win now, mostly for her friend. The conch horn sounded. Charioteers, Tantalus called. To your mark. Naruto and Clarisse got a determined look on their face as they got ready to the race to begin. Clarisse was driving while he was fighting since he was the better fight, being a ninja and all. She did not seem to have a problem with that. Looking around, he saw a multitude of odd-looking evil pigeons on the edge of the track, surrounding them. He noticed that he himself and Percy were the only ones that noticed them. How the hell was that possible? Please tell me you see those birds. Yeah, just ignore them. Clarisse said. They won't attack unless provoked. They are called Stymphalian birds. Oh joy. Naruto deadpanned. He knew about these birds. They were evil birds that when they attacked someone, took everything but the bone. Soon, Tantalus signaled for them all to go, and go they did. They all shot off, determined to win as well. However, they soon found out that this race was more of survival instead of what they first thought because the birds attacked. You were saying, Naruto deadpanned to his partner, who had a freaked out expression on her face. Just shut up and kill those things. Clarisse barked. Naruto nodded as he saw a few of the birds heading for them. Some of the birds went to the skeletal horses, trying to peck their non-existent eyes out. The blonde smirked as he took out fear and destruction to slice away at the violent birds. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Beckendorf get mobbed. His fighter tried to bat the birds away, but he couldn't see anything. The chariot veered off course and plowed through the strawberry fields, the mechanical horses steaming. It was basically the same for the other chariots except for Percy's and Annabeth's, who seemed to be planning something to get rid of the annoying birds. He saw them head for the big house to get something. Seeing that most of the competitors were gone from this little race and were fighting for their lives, Naruto decided to help out a bit. He put away his sword once the birds around them were pretty much gone, and took out 10 kunai with explosive note attached to them. Clarisse saw this and yelled, "The hell are you doing? Cooking us up some pigeon meat." Naruto joked around with a smile before he threw the kunai outward. Shadow kunai jutsu. The blonde smirked as the 10 become 50 and explosion rockets the air and ground as the demon pigeon began to drop like flies, but there were still more. Dang, I was gunning for 100, my chakra is still a bit messed up. Thankfully, Percy and Annabeth decided to return and put on some music. Naruto smirked. Annabeth really knew her stuff. Back in the day, Hercules uses sound to drive them off and it was still working. On a side note, he saw that Tantalus wasn't really do anything but chasing around some food like a madman. The blonde's friends used Chiron's CD, the all-time greatest hits of Dean Martin, began to play. Suddenly the air was filled with violins and a bunch of guys moaning in Italian. The demon pigeons went nuts. They started flying in circles, running into each other like they wanted to bash their own brains out. Then they abandoned the track altogether and flew skyward in a huge dark wave. Dang, it's a madhouse, Naruto shouted above the music and screeching of the birds, making Clarisse laugh at she joke as she drove. Now, shouted Annabeth, archers, with clear targets. Apollo's archers had flawless aim. Most of them could knock 5 or 6 arrows at once. Within minutes, the ground was littered with dead bronze-beaked pigeons, and the survivors were a distant trail of smoke on the horizon. The camp was saved, but the wreckage wasn't pretty. Most of the chariots had been completely destroyed. Almost everyone was wounded, bleeding from multiple bird pecks. The kids from Aphrodite's cabin were screaming Beck. Oz, their hairdos had been ruined and their clothes pooped on. Some of them were even complaining how Naruto was going to haze them about it. Bravo, Tantalus said, but he wasn't looking at Percy or Annabeth. We have our first winners. Quote, he finished the line and awarded the golden laurels for the race to a stunned-looking Clarisse and Naruto. They were the last ones in the races and actually won, so Tantalus awarded them, seeming to spite Percy and Annabeth. Then Tantalus turned and smiled at Percy, which was a bit creepy. And now to punish the troublemakers who disrupted this race. Naruto gained a deadpanned expression. You have got to be kidding me. Well, there you all go. Another chapter. Hope you all liked it. I I'm going to be revising the prophecy for this book. It is going to include Naruto. I also plan on releasing a Naruto fairy tale crossover in the near future, probably when I am done with cyberspace. Review. Tantalus Hates Children. NPU. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters Chapter 7. You know, Tantalus started. Those vicious birds would not have attacked us if Percy and Annabeth could drive their chariots correctly. They were minding their own business after all. What? Percy and Annabeth shouted angrily. Now that is a load of bull. Naruto growled. Well, the noise you two created drove them mad. What did you expect? I would hate to see you two drive those cars that mortals drive. Tantalus groaned. Naruto gained a twitching eyebrow at the jab at his friends and could see Percy and Annabeth were getting pissed. That much was clear with their red faces. Oh, go chase another singing donut. Percy shouted, making the blonde inwardly groan. Tantalus' face was not red from anger and he would not stand for this type of disrespect. He then gained an evil smile. Well, if that is how you feel, then I am giving the three of you kitchen patrol. You brats get to scrub the pots and plates for the rest of the afternoon. Oh, and try not to melt your hands off. Ha! The man then turned to the rest of the camp and smiled. Now to celebrate, we are having a special luncheon banquet for our winners. Clarisse and Naruto. A full-course meal featuring country fried stimuli and death bird. The whole camp seemed to perk up this, but they did feel sorry for Percy, Annabeth, and even Tyson. Naruto walked up to his friends and sighed. Percy, that was pretty cool. Yeah, not I have to pay for it. Percy grumbled. No, we have to pay for your big mouth. Annabeth said angrily. Naruto grimaced at that and said, yeah, good luck with that man. While Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson were working in the underground kitchen with the harpies and trying not to melt their hands off because of the harpies use lava to wash dishes, Naruto was sitting at Clarisse's table for our lunch since he was invited by the girl. He had told them about this dream about Grover and the table was in deep thought. Most of them did not know the goat boy that well and could not give him an answer. Clarisse spoke up though. Maybe he found something. I am not sure because I really don't. No, your best bet to go and ask Mr. D about it. Hey, I will, Naruto said but didn't get up. First, I am going to eat. The whole table smirked and cheered at that before they all dug in. So you say Grover was in Florida before he was captured by that idiot Cyclops? Mr. D asked, a bit annoyed, as he and a few satyrs played a card game. Yeah, and he says IT is here. Mr. D asked again. Yeah, Naruto answered again. Well, Mr. D started before he was cut off by a smart-ass remark from Naruto. Man, that is a deep subject. The wine god actually smirked at that. He might use that line later on. Anyway, it seems that Grover has found a powerful object that can help us. Question is, what? Mr. D stared at Naruto before saying, let me tell you a story and then you will know. There were these two children of Zeus, Cadmus and Europa, okay. They were about to get offered up as human sacrifices, when they prayed to Zeus to save them. So Zeus sent this magical flying ram with golden wool, which picked them up in Greece and carried them all the way to Colchis in Asia Minor. Well, actually it carried Cadmus. Europa fell off and died along the way, but that's not important. Hey, might have been for her. She did die after all. Naruto commented. I wonder if I'll ever see her in the underworld. Who knows? Mr. D grumbled as he lost his hand in the game of cards. Now shut up and listen. When Cadmus got to Colchis, he sacrificed the golden ram to the gods and hung the fleece in a tree in the middle of the kingdom. The fleece brought prosperity to the land. Animals stopped getting sick. Plants grew better. Farmers had bumper crops. Plagues never visited. That's why Jason wanted the fleece. It can revitalize any land where it's placed. It cures sickness, strengthens nature, cleans up pollution, you know, all that good stuff. Naruto's eyes widened at that. I see. So, this golden fleece is what we will find when we find Grover. With something like that, we can cure Talia's tree and strengthen the borders around camp. Correct, boy, Mr. D said. But the problem is that the damn thing has been missing for centuries. How Grover found it was beyond luck, right? The point is that he found it. Naruto said before he smiled. And knowing Annabeth, she probably told Percy about all of this in the kitchen, and Percy will probably want a quest to find it. True, Mr. D groaned. However, I doubt Tantalus will give it to him. However, he will have to give it to someone. I'll go with whoever it is then. I need to save Talia, Naruto said with determination in his eyes. Good to know, but do you know where to look? Mr. D asked. That stumped Naruto. Even if they did get a quest for this, where in Florida would they look? Suddenly the words of the Gray sisters hit him and he asked, do we have a map? Yeah, here, the wine god said, and in a poof of smoke, it was on the table. The card game long forgotten because of the conversation. As Naruto's eyes scanned the map, mostly in the Florida region, Mr. D looked on curiously. What are you looking for? The Gray sisters gave us a set of numbers before they got the hell out of Dodge. I think they are latitude and longitude coordinates, Naruto said before he went to the spot to find it in the ocean. Great. In the middle of the ocean. Oh, I don't think so. Think about that area, Mr. D offered. Naruto looked at it more closely with all the small islands near Florida. It could be anywhere. But why in the middle of the? No freaking way. The Bermuda Triangle. The Sea of Monsters in the Bermuda Triangle. He almost shouted as he remembered all the stories he had heard about that place. It did make sense. It would seem so, Mr. D said. Now get out of here so I can finish me game. Naruto chuckled at that. Okay, man, this will be fun. After all, we will be in the best vacation spot in the world. Oh yeah, this will be fun. Aruba, Jamaica, oh I wanna take ya. Naruto sang as he waked. Away. With Mr. D rolling his eyes, wishing he could be there instead of at the damn camp. That night at the campfire, Apollo's cabin led the sing-along. They tried to get everybody spirits up, but it wasn't easy after that afternoon's bird attack. They all sat around a semicircle of stone steps, singing half-heartedly and watching the bonfire blaze while the Apollo guys strummed their guitars and picked their lyres. They did all the standard camp numbers. Down by the Aegean, I am my own great-great-grandpa. This land is Minos' land. The bonfire was enchanted, so the louder you sang, the higher it rose, changing color and heat with the mood of the crowd. Naruto's songs usually had the desired affect because he usually got the whole camp to sing, and that made the fire go 20 feet high, perfect for roasting marshmallows. Dionysus left early. After suffering through a few songs, he muttered something about how even Pinnacle with Chiron had been more exciting than this. Then he gave Tantalus a distasteful look and headed back toward the big house, but not before nodding to Naruto. When the last song was over, Tantalus said, well, that was lovely. He came forward with a toasted marshmallow on a stick and tried to pluck it off, real casual-like. But before he could touch it, the marshmallow flew off the stick. Tantalus made a wild grab, but the marshmallow committed suicide, diving into the flames. That actually made Naruto smile. It was a good pick-me-up to watch Tantalus try, and it's something. It wasn't as funny as Tom and Jerry, it was good entertainment. Tantalus turned back toward the group, smiling coldly. Now then, some announcements about tomorrow's schedule. Sir, Percy cut in, making Naruto smirk. Now was the time. Tantalus's eye twitched. Our kitchen boy has something to say. Some of the Ares campers snickered, but Percy wasn't going to let anybody embarrass him into silence. He stood and looked at Annabeth. Thank the gods, she stood up with him. He then looked to Naruto and the blonde nodded. It seemed that Naruto knew something, and was pushing for Percy to come out it with already. He had to smile at that. We have an idea to save the camp. Dead silence, but he could tell he had gotten everybody's interest, because the campfire flared bright yellow. Indeed, Tantalus said blandly. Well, if it has anything to do with chariots. The Golden Fleece, Percy said. We know where it is. The flames burned orange. Before Tantalus could stop him, he blurted out the dream about Grover and Polyphemus's island, with Naruto confirming because he was connected as well. Annabeth stepped in and reminded everybody what the fleece could do. It sounded more convincing coming from her. The fleece can save the camp, she concluded. I'm certain of it. Nonsense, said Tantalus. We don't need saving. Everybody stared at him. Until Tantalus started looking uncomfortable. Hey, He must really want to go back to hell. Naruto muttered, and it was loud enough for some to laugh at, but thankfully Tantalus didn't hear it. Besides, the man added quickly, the Sea of Monsters. That's hardly an exact location. You wouldn't even know where to look. Actually we do, Naruto said, getting a smirk from Percy. You do? Annabeth asked. Yeah, you can thank the Grey Sisters for that. Tell them, Percy. The son of Poseidon smiled. It seemed that Naruto found out about the plan as well. He should have known. 30, 31, 75, 12. Okay, Tantalus said. Thank you for sharing those meaningless numbers. They're sailing coordinates, Percy said. Latitude and longitude. We, learned about it in social studies. Oh yeah, Naruto said randomly. I somehow passed that test, even though I didn't study for it. There was a collective sweat drop at that. Annabeth shook her head while Percy snorted. It was pure luck in his opinion. Annabeth then smiled. If both Naruto and Percy had figured that out, she was impressed. 30 degrees, 31 minutes north, 75 degrees, 12 minutes west. They're right. The Grey Sisters gave us those coordinates. That'd be somewhere in the Atlantic, off the coast of Florida. The Sea of Monsters. We need a quest. Wait just a minute, Tantalus said. But the campers took up the chant. We need a quest. We need a quest. The flames rose higher. It isn't necessary, Tantalus insisted. We need a quest. We need a quest. You can't escape this, Tantalus. Naruto said with a smirk, which made the man's eye twitch because the blonde was right. Fine, Tantalus shouted, his eyes blazing with anger. You brats want me to assign a quest? Yes, very well, he agreed. I shall authorize a champion to undertake this perilous journey. To retrieve the golden fleece and bring it back to camp. Or die trying. Finally they were getting somewhere. Percy was so happy about this, they were going to help the camp again. Naruto smiled. It was about to get interesting again. He was sure they were going to need his help. I will allow our champion to consult the oracle, Tantalus announced, and choose 2 companions for the journey. And I think the choice of champion is obvious. Tantalus looked at Annabeth, Percy, and Naruto as if he wanted to flay them alive. The champion should be one who has earned the camp's respect, who has proven resourceful in the chariot races and courageous in the defense of the camp. You shall lead this quest, Clarisse. The fire flickered 1,000 different colors. The Ares cabin started stomping and cheering, Clarisse. Clarisse. Naruto quirked an eyebrow, but smiled all the same. He might be able to help out after all. Still, what would this do for Percy? Clarisse stood up, looking stunned. Then she swallowed, and her chest swelled with pride. I accept the quest. Wait, Percy shouted. Grover is my friend. The dream came to me in Naruto. Sit down, yelled one of the Ares campers. You had your chance last summer. Yeah, he just wants to be in the spotlight again. Another said. Clarisse glared at me. I accept the quest, she repeated. I, Clarisse, daughter of Ares, will save the camp. The Ares campers cheered even louder. Annabeth protested, and the other Athena campers joined in. Everybody else started taking sides, shouting and arguing and throwing marshmallows. Naruto sighed and kept quiet as he observed the scene. Tantalus shouted, silence, you brats. The tone he used creeped out Naruto and stunned Percy. Sit down, he ordered, and I will tell you a ghost story. Naruto narrowed his eyes. The way he said that meant it was not just a ghost story. He felt he was going to learn something about this man and why he was put under that curse. Once upon a time there was a mortal king who was beloved of the gods. Tantalus put his hand on his chest, and many got the feeling he was talking about himself. This king, he said, was even allowed to feast on Mount Olympus. But when he tried to take some ambrosia and nectar back to Earth to figure out the recipe, just one little doggy bag, mind you, the gods punished him. They banned him from their halls forever. His own people mocked him. His children scolded him. And, oh yes, campers, he had horrible children. Children just like you. He pointed a crooked finger at several people in the audience, including Naruto and Percy. Do you know what he did to his ungrateful children? Tantalus asked softly. Do you know how he paid back the gods for their cruel punishment? He invited the Olympians to a feast at his palace, just to show there were no hard feelings. No one noticed that his children were missing. And when he served the gods dinner, My dear campers, can you guess what was in the stew? No one dared answer. The firelight glowed dark blue, reflecting evilly on Tantalus's crooked face. However, Naruto looked pissed. He was feeling so much rage at what Tantalus had done to his own flesh and blood that the fire also took on a red tint in the blue. His father did do enough to torture this man. No, monster. Oh, the gods punished him in the afterlife, Tantalus croaked. They did indeed, but he'd had his moment of satisfaction, hadn't he? His children never again spoke back to him or questioned his authority. And do you know what? Rumor has it that the king's spirit now dwells at this very camp, waiting for a chance to take revenge on ungrateful, rebellious children. And so, are there any more complaints, before we send Clarisse off on her quest? Silence. Tantalus nodded at Clarisse. The oracle, my dear. Go on. She shifted uncomfortably, like even she didn't want glory at the price of being Tantalus's pet. However, she got a few words out. Quote, I'm talking Naruto with me and that is it. Go. Tantalus snarled, not happy. She bowed awkwardly and hurried off toward the big house, but not before motioning for Naruto to follow her, which he did quickly before he did something to that creature he was regret. However, he did hear what Tantalus had to say next. What about you, Percy Jackson? Tantalus asked. No comments from our dishwasher. There was no answer. It seemed he was not going to give this sick monster the satisfaction of an answer. Naruto had to smile at that. So before he was too far away, he created a shadow clone to serve the rest of the conversation before he ran to where his partner for this quest was. Good, Tantalus said, and let me remind everyone no one leaves this camp without my permission. Anyone who tries, well, if they survive the attempt, they will be expelled forever, but it won't come to that. The Harpies will be enforcing curfew from now on, and they are always hungry. Good night, my dear campers. Sleep well. With a wave of Tantalus's hand, the fire was extinguished, and the campers trailed off toward their cabins in the dark. The Naruto clone walked up next to the water boy and asked, So, are you going anyway? Percy looked to his blonde friend. He knew this must be a clone since he knows that Naruto is with Clarisse in the big house. He looked at his friend's clone and could not help but feel a little jealous. Naruto was going on the quest to save the camp and he wasn't. But, he didn't feel that way for long because he figured the blonde was doing this more for Talia than for the camp. And he could understand that. I don't know. You know, I won't stop you. The clone said, I know you are stubborn and want to help the camp, which it good. If you go and we find you, I will back you up, just like always. Percy smiled. Naruto was one of the best friends he could ever have. Thanks Naruto. No problem. The clone said with a smile and he watched as Percy trudged off toward his cabin. However, he did not disperse. The original wanted him to make sure if Percy went or not. Clarisse was a bit scared after the tale that Tantalus told them about and walking at night too. The big house where the creepy oracle lived would make anyone scare shitless. She is just glad she has her crush with her. Turning to him, she smiled. Thanks for taking up the offer of coming with me. It was an offer. It felt more like a demand, Naruto asked smartly, which earned him a punch in the shoulder. You idiot. You could have said no. Clarisse grumbled. Yeah, but I like to help my friends. So sue me. Naruto countered with a smirk. And that is why I asked you to join me. The daughter of Ares replied before they both noticed that we're at the door to the oracle. She took a deep breath and said, Here goes nothing. Naruto offered a smile as he opened the door for her and they both went in. The blonde felt a chill run up his spine. The oracle freaked him the fuck out the furs. Tea time he went with Percy, now he had to deal with it again. Once again the green mist spewed out of the oracle's mouth and it turned into the image of Ares, her father. You shall sail the iron ship with warriors of bone. You shall find what you seek and make it your own, but despair for your life entombed within stone. And fail without friends, to fly home. Know this, the journey will not be easy. The son of death must fight his enemy. The lost son of Echidna will be revealed. When it was over, the two quickly made their way out of the big house into the circle of cabin. Clarisse turned to her friend with a smile. This is going to be a tough quest, you better be ready. You know I will be, but you have to wonder. Who am I going to have to fight? Naruto said. Well, the children of Echidna are tricky, so who knows? Yeah, Naruto said while scratching the back of his head. You know, I am already in deep shit with his for killing the fox. I highly doubt she will be happy with me when I beat the next kid she sends after me. Oh yeah, this is going to be interesting, Clarisse said with a laugh before she said goodnight and went in her cabin. As Naruto walked to the Aphrodite cabin, he stopped because he gained the memories of his clone. He smirked. Well, it seems you guys are going after all. See you there. Just don't get lost. Man, Hermes is a genius, though the two snakes are weird, he said to himself before he made his way in the cabin. Echidna observed two people in an underground lair. One was a snake-like man with sound attire on. The other had the same clothes, but he was much younger and had a permanent scowl on his face. They were Orochimaru and Sasuke Uchiha, and it seemed that they were at a standoff, but from what she didn't not know, nor cared. Orochimaru's eyes cut to the woman, who was in her true form, a snake-like woman. Who are you and how did you get in? He asked, wary of this strange woman. Sasuke just eyed the woman with distaste. I have come. For my son. Echidna replied with a devilish smile. And cut. There you all go. Sorry about the late update. Review. On the road again. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters Chapter 8. On the road again. You know what? Screw it. It will be a three-girl harem. Naruto, Taliah, Clarisse, Zoe. However, Clarisse will try and get him in this story, but he will turn her down because it would be conflicting with his crush for Taliah. It will probably happen in the third or fourth book because Taliah will see that Clarisse likes Naruto as well and relent in sharing the boy. It will make some drama, but she will reluctantly accept Zoe as well. As for Bianca, why? They are kinda brother and sister, well half siblings. Give me a good reason. Plus, I have a way to save her and keep to the storyline of the books. Also, Clarisse is hotter in my story than in the books. Naruto had woken up early to work in his workshop again. Mostly on his hell bike as he liked to call it. He did not know when Clarisse wanted to leave, so it was the perfect time to do some work. Selena was also nice enough to help him pack for the trip as well, and she seemed rather happy that he was going on the quest with the daughter of Ares. Odd. Must be a girl thing. Of course, he was still oblivious when it came to girls liking him. Sure, he could see it for other people, but him, no way. Well, that is not entirely true. He had strong feelings for Taliah and he could tell she liked him as well. His head snapped up at that thought and banged his head against the engine of the hell bike. Son of a bitch, he screamed in pain. You okay, Naruto? Beckendorf asked as he popped his head in the room. He too was working early. Yeah, just banged my head against the engine. Naruto growled through the pain as he held his head. Ouch. Beckendorf winced. Well, I guess this will be only work I can get done for a bit, Naruto said as he stood and wiped his hands, and head free of grease. Hey, you ready for a quest with War Girl? As I'll ever be. Besides, she not all that bad, Naruto said with a smile. Not sure when she wants to leave, but I might as well go and see Taliah before I go. Oh, that reminds me, she did come to me and said to tell you that you guys are leaving at 10. Beckendorf stated. Naruto looked at the clock and saw that it was now 9 o'clock. Well, he still had an hour. With a nod of his head, he left, leaving Beckendorf at that shop alone. Said Teen Sai when he heard the door close. That guy is going to drive himself insane if he can't get that girl out of the tree. Hope Clarisse can knock some sense into him. Clarisse sighed as she gazed out onto the lake. This was her first quest and she going on in with her crush. Odd thing to have in her opinion. Still, she liked him a lot. Tien could not figure out why he would prefer Tree Girl, but she hoped she could catch his attention. However, this crush was conflicting with her aggressive nature. A few wood nymphs watched the girl with knowing smirks on their faces. How the hell would this even work? Clarisse growled. She was not good with relationships, even watching them on TV had confused her about what to do. However, she felt an odd urge hit her and she began to sing. And she was pretty good. If there's a prize for rotten judgment, I guess I've already won that. No man is worth the aggravation, that's ancient history, been there, done that. Somehow, Music began to play from the trees and 5 wood nymphs danced out, singing as well. Who do you think you're kiddin'? He's the earth and heaven to you. Try to keep it hidden, honey. We can see right through you. Girl, ya can't conceal it, we know how ya feel and who you're thinking of. Clarisse seemed to get angry as her mixed emotions ran through her. No chance, no way. I won't say it, no, no. Somewhere up above, Aphrodite was giving off a shit-eating grin as she watched the girl that was in love with her grandson. Oh, he was such good entertainment, just like that Percy boy. Hell, she just set this girl up with the music as well. It was too funny. The wood nymphs smiled and sang, you swoon, you sigh, why deny it, oh. It's too cliché, I won't say I'm in love. Clarisse sang before she looked out on the lake once more and thought about this one boy she had a crush on when she thought she was a normal person. I thought my heart had learned its lesson. It feels so good when you start out. My head is screaming get a grip, girl. Unless you're dying to cry your heart out. Oh, the nymphs sang again, you keep on denying who you were and how you're feeling. Baby, we're not buying. Hun, we saw ya hit the ceiling, face it like a grown-up. When ya gonna own up, that ya got it bad? No chance, now way. I won't say it, no, no. The GIRL sang again before she thought about the blonde again and grinned. Give up, give in. Check the grin, you're in love. Clarisse held the bridge of her nose in annoyance. This won't play, I won't say I am in love. You're doing flips, read our lips, you're in love. You're way off base, I won't say it. Get off my case, I won't say it. Girl, don't be proud. It's okay, you're in love. The wood NYMP. HS sang as they made their way back into the forest. Clarisse smiled as she picked up a nearby flower and sang, oh. At least out loud, I won't say I'm in love. That is when she finally noticed that. She was singing and accidentally crushed the flower. Holy crap, the singing is contagious, she screamed before she glared at the forest. If any one of you tell anybody about this, I will burn you all to the ground. With that said, she left to get to the spot where she would meet her partner Crush. Naruto looked around as he heard noise, or was it singing in the distance? Anyone else here singing? He asked aloud. Some of his Aphrodite cabin mates smacked their heads. They knew, but they were not going to tell the oblivious blonde. Shrugging, the blonde made his way up Half-Blood Hill and made it to the sickly-looking tree. He looked at it sadly before put a hand to it, and he immersed himself in the now chaotic limbo world. Instead of the usual white background, it was purple and stormy. Not a good place to be in. Looking around, he spit to Leah holding herself and crying in pain. However, it was not as loud as before, but it still hurt him to see her like this. Quickly walking up to her, he enveloped her in a hug and said, hey yourself, she said in a strained, but happy voice. It is good to see you. Any news? I have some good news. We found a way to get the poison out. Naruto said as he held her. What's the way? The Golden Fleece. We just have to go the Sea of Monsters in the Bermuda Triangle. Naruto informed her. Talia seemed to wince at that. She had heard stories about that place and none of them were good. Are you going by yourself? No, Clarisse, daughter of Ares, actually go the quest after we won a chariot race. She agreed to let me tag along. Naruto said. Talia rolled her eyes at that. He had told her along about his friend from the Ares cabin, and even she could tell that the girl liked Naruto. She could not blame her though. Naruto was one of a kind. She had even fallen for him. That's great. Well, before I go, I should at least take out some more of the poison, Naruto said as he begun to do that, but was stopped by her voice. No, you are going to need your strength for this quest, Talia said with a weak smile. I'll be fine as long as you get what you are looking for. Don't worry about me. Naruto rose an eyebrow at that. It is hard not to, he said softly. Talia smiled. I know. You are a very caring person, that's why. She trailed off. What's wha? Naruto tried to say but was cut off by Talia leaning up and weakly kissing him on the lips. You are always there for me, Talia replied as she broke the kiss. I can hear what is going outside the tree, and Luke, one of my oldest friends, never came by just to talk and cheer me up. You did and more, and even though we have only known each other for a year, I think I am in love with you. Naruto blushed at that before. I could say that I am too. You are a strong girl with a great personality, he said before he turned the kiss. Taliah smiled and somehow, while kissing him, the pain the poison was causing her lessened greatly. She wanted to continue this forever. But Naruto need to go or else she might not make it. She reluctantly broke the kiss and said, thanks for letting me know, but you should go before it is too late. Naruto smiled at the girl and said, right. He gave her a hug before he disappeared from limbo. Taking his hand of Taliah tree, he said, don't worry, I get that fleece so it can cure that annoying poison and then I'll a way to break you out of there. I promise, Naruto said aloud since he knew she could hear him. After that, he made his way back into camp with a smile on his face. In the middle of the U of cabins, he saw Clarisse waiting there with an annoyed look on her face. So, how we getting there? He asked with a smile. About time you got here. Clarisse said. What? I am on time, Naruto said, oblivious as to why she was angry. Finished saying goodbye, Clarisse asked, but also didn't care. Yep, and I found out something interesting. Taliah can hear everything that goes on outside her tree, Naruto said thoughtfully. Clarisse's eyes widened at that. She had some words to say then, but she would wait until after the quest. Well, good to know, she said before she pointed in the direction of the beach. We are going by sea. Oh, should be fun, but how did you get a vessel? Naruto asked. My father has an agreement with yours. That all the spoils of the losing side of war goes to him. They basically own him a debt for losing. He is calling on that debt now because I prayed for his help while you said your goodbyes to Tree Girl. Clarisse explained. Huh, well this should be interesting. A vessel from some losing side of a war. I bet you anything that it will be run by zombies, Naruto said with a smirk. Whatever, anything is possible, Clarisse said while rolling her eyes before they made their way to the beach. Once there, they didn't see anything at first, but that soon changed when a large ironclad warship suddenly rose from the bottom of the water. Okay, didn't expect that, Naruto said with blinking stupidly. The CSS Birmingham. Clarisse read aloud the name of the ship that was on its side. Oh, it must be from the Civil War, what a piece of junk. Just be grateful your Dad didn't give you something from the old days. Those old ships the Greeks used didn't look any safer. Plus, I thought he would be pissed at me for the last time we met. Naruto said. Oh right, your fight with him. She drawled out. Well, at least we got something. Yep, Madame Clarisse and Naruto sir. We shall be your crew, an undead Condorate soldier said as he came out of the ship. Hey, told you, Naruto smirked, talking about his earlier talk about zombies. Just get in, Clarisse said while rolling her eyes. Oh, and would be your child lady? Sasuke asked the snake-like woman rudely. Echidna simply glared at the young Uchiha. Certainly not a brat such as you, child of retribution. Sasuke simply arched an eyebrow at that but said nothing. Orochimaru eyed this strange woman with interest. She was not after his prized Uchiha. So who are you? I am known as Echidna, mother of all monsters. I see, Orochimaru replied evenly. This woman was obliviously insane to believe. That she is someone from old stories he grew up on as a child. Tell me, why do you seek immortality when you already have it? Echidna asked the man. What? I am not immortal. Not yet. Oh, but you are. You were the moment you were born. You just had to age a bit to be taken seriously. Echidna replied. Your parents died because of you. You took their life force, but they were not your true parents. I am your true mother. You are my last and strongest son. You must be joking, Orochimaru hissed. He remembered his parents to this day and he did feel that their death was odd. How would I be someone else's child? Simple. That man you called father had a one-night stand with me and I sent my power, along with my husband's power within you. He is Typhon, Echidna said with a smile. No, this is impossible, Orochimaru shouted. He felt like he was losing his mind. My children do not age after a certain point, you must have noticed that by now. They can be reborn when they are killed, but only after a few years. You are Orochimaru, the true snake. The snake-like man was now on his knees, clothing his head. This can't be. Accept the truth, my son, Echidna said as she put A hand on his shoulder and the that touch, information crawled its way to his mind's eye. Everything about his life was for this moment. I see. Thank you, mother, for finding me. Orochimaru muttered in a dead tone of voice. Come, I have a mission for you. It is to kill a certain blonde hero that you know of. Ekita ordered. Yes, mother. Hold on, the hell is going on? Sasuke asked. Sure, he was done training with the man, but this shit came out of nowhere and it was confusing the hell out of him. You will know in time, child of retribution. The eclipse that will be upon you will tell you what you need to know. Stay alive until then, Echidna said cryptically before she had her son disappeared. So bored, Naruto complained as he was topside, looking out onto the ocean at night. Of course they had to be mindful of the ship because it could not go in deep waters, they had to stay by the shore most of them time. They got to see a few good sights, but not much else. Clarisse's eyebrow twitched. The idiot blonde could be as bad as a child sometime. Well, and I can't believe I am suggesting this, why don't you sing to ease your boredom? Naruto blinked stupidly before he smacked his head. Why didn't I think of that? He said before he smirked evilly, thinking of a song that could get interrupted at any time. He wanted to see how far he could get. How about this one? It's a small world after all. No, anything but that, Clarisse raged. Down below, the zombie soldiers, who were intelligent, were wondering if their commanders were married or something. They bickered a lot. Well, Clarisse did. Naruto just annoyed her. Suddenly they felt themselves moving on their own to topside. They suspected it was the blonde's doing. All right then, but I am borrowing the crew for a moment then. Naruto said with a smirk. Wait, what? Clarisse got out before the crew came on the deck and positioned themselves behind the blonde. Suddenly two poofs were heard. Naruto looked stunned. Now and the other poof was a shadow clone, transformed into a boombox. When the music began, she had a twitching eyebrow. Okay, seriously, Michael Jackson. Naruto nodded before he began to sing. It's close to midnight and something evil's lurking in the dark under the moonlight. You see a sight that almost stops your heart. You try to scream but terror takes the sound before you make it, you star. To freeze as horror looks you right between the eyes, you're paralyzed. 'Cause this is Thriller night. And no one's gonna save you from the beast about strike, you know it's Thriller night. You're fighting for your life inside a killer, Thriller tonight. You hear the door slam and realize there's nowhere left to run, you feel the cold hand and wonder if you'll ever see the sun you see. Lose your eyes and hope that this is just imagination, girl. But all the while you hear the creature creeping up behind, you're out of time. 'Cause this is Thriller night. There ain't no second chance against the thing with 40 eyes, girl. Thriller night. You're fighting for your life inside a killer, Thriller tonight. Night creatures calling, the dead start to walk in their mask. Raid, there's no escaping the jaws of the alien this time. They're open wide, this is the end of your life. They're out to get you, there's demons closing in on every side. From closing curly bracket, they will possess you unless you change that number on your dial. Now is the time for you and I to cuddle close together, yeah. All through the night I'll save you from the terror on the screen, I'll make you see that this is Thriller night. 'Cause I can thrill you more than any ghost would ever dare try. Thriller night. So let me hold you tight and share a killer, diller, chiller, thriller here tonight. 'Cause this is Thriller night. Girl, I can thrill you more than any ghost would ever dare try. Thriller night. So let me hold you tight and share a killer, thriller, ow. I'm gonna thrill ya tonight. Darkness falls across the land, the midnight hour is close at hand, creatures crawl in search of blood to terrorize y'all's neighborhood. I'm gonna thrill ya tonight, ooh baby, I'm gonna thrill ya tonight. Oh darlin', Thriller night, baby, ooh. The foulest stench is in the air, the funk of 40,000 years. And grisly ghouls from every tomb are closing in to seal your doom and huff you fight to stay alive, your body starts to shiver. For no mere mortal can resist the evil of the Thriller. Clarisse's mood lifted during the song. Sure, she was annoyed with the blonde, but he always put a smile on her face. It put her in such a good mood that she laughed before she joined in dancing the odd dance that Naruto and the zombies were performing. When it was all over, the Confederate 8 zombies all went up in a poof smoke as they returned to their jobs below, confused and disoriented. It also had the effect of tripping up Clarisse and making her plow into Naruto, making them both fall, before they laughed. Getting up, they made their way over to the edge of the boat and sat down. Well, that was fun. Clarisse chuckled. Yep, you seemed annoyed before, and now that my thriller song is over, you are happy. Naruto said, I am glad. I don't like it when my friends are in a bad mood. Clarisse smiled at that. Naruto always tried to make everyone smile, and she admired that. She really liked him. Hey, she was a girl. Even if a battle-hardened one. After all, she is a daughter of Ares. So she liked to fight a lot, and all that training did make her body well toned with a good bit of muscle. Her face was not bad. But what kept the boy away was her attitude, but Naruto didn't mind it at all. She was happy to be his friend. After some time, like Talia, she fell for him too. Yet, she was very awkward in the love field and wondered how her father went about it. Deciding to wing it, seeing the mood was right since it was a full moon, she leaned over and kissed him on the lips. Naruto, who had his eyes closed as he laughed, widened them to epic proportions when he felt the kiss from his traveling partner. He was just too shocked to do anything. He had always figured that he was just be best friends with the girl. Now he had two girls after his heart and he had no clue how to act. When Clarisse broke the kiss, he blushed and asked, what W was that F for? Oh hell, I'll just come out and say it. I really like you, okay? Clarisse said with a blush of her own. I was hoping you would accept me for, you know. Most guys stay away from me because of my personality. You, however, don't care. Naruto sighed with a small, but confused smile on his face. Damn, I'm an idiot not to see that you like me. More like oblivious, she commented. Yeah, but I don't know if this could work. Naruto said sadly. I mean, Talia kissed me as well in limbo. So, I am just confused. Damn that girl, Clarisse raged in her thoughts before sighing. Naruto, I know you like her. But if you can't get her out of the tree, I will be here, but I won't wait forever. She said as she got up. And if I get her out, will you still be my friend? Of course, Clarisse shot back, shish. Ought that he would think that she wouldn't. However, I won't be too happy that you are with her, but I would not mind sharing. She offered, making the boy widen his eyes before he blushed again. That would be an experience. He said, thanks for understanding. No problem, Clarisse said softly, although she was sad that she could not be with him now. Suddenly, they heard a noise in the air and they looked up. They, at first, thought it was a comet. As it got closer, they saw that it was a chariot and on it was Ares, god of war. Alright, tell me what you all think. I know I am not good with romance. Tell him how I can improve on that so when I get to Zoe, I can make it believable. Also, I might do a sequel to this series, but I don't really want to go with the second series that is own. Hell, I have not even read The Last Olympian yet. So, if I do a sequel to this series, I plan to cross this with Norse mythology. Why not write the second series focus on Roman mythology, so mine will be on Norse? Just need some ideas. Also, Naruto would gain another girl. Thor's daughter. Either canon or Marvel daughter, I am not sure. Help me out. Review. The Last Son of Echidna. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters, Chapter 9. The Last Son of Echidna. Well, I am working on the future quest with Burning Truth. CHMO1, thanks for the help as well. Of course, this won't be till after the 4th book and, hey. He will be getting Thor's daughter. Also, someone mentioned the songs. It won't happy every chapter, but I will have a song for each girl. You already saw Clarisse's song, won't say I am in love. I have the perfect ones for Talia and Zoe. I am still debating on whether or not Bianca will be with him, so I'll put up a poll. Hey any clue as to why your dad would be here? Naruto asked his partner. You're asking me? Clarisse asked in shock. She really had no clue, but she might have an idea, especially about what happened a few minutes ago. They could not ponder too long. Oz the god of war landed on the water next to their stopped boat. The man's chariot just floated on the water like it was weightless. He then got out and walked over to them rather casually, building up the suspension. Soon, he was right in front of the two, towering above them with a smirk. Naruto, being who he was not that afraid and smiled. "How are those ankles holding up?" Naruto asked, which got Clarisse to look at him in shock and fear for his safety. Ares, face still set in a smirk, put his hand down on the blonde's head before lifting him up so that they were eye level. Then he said, "Pretty good, punk," before dropping the blonde back on the hard metal of the boat. "I guess I should say thanks for knocking me out of the mind control, but I will have a rematch with you one of these days." "Oh, looking to get humiliated again?" Naruto answered smartly. "Watch it, brat. I could turn you into a harpy if I wanted to." Ares shot back. "What's stopping you?" Naruto smirked. R.S. glared at the blonde for a moment before he turned to Clarisse. "Go below. I want to talk with your partner about a few things." "Don't worry. I will take good care of him." Clarisse hesitated for a moment before going below the deck, hoping her crush would live through whatever Ares had planned for him. Turning back to the blonde he said, "Again, I would have loved for there have been a war to break out. But it would have been for stupid reasons. Thanks again, brat. Never thought a child of old corpse breath would defend a friend and fight me to stop a war." Naruto laughed. "I am not like my siblings. If you have not figured that out yet." "Seriously." Ares seemed to roll his eyes. "There was another reason I came here," he said before he suck-punched the blonde, making him fall on the ground. Before he put his boot on Naruto's chest. "Now, I know you have a thing for Zeus' daughter and it is annoying. That's because she is in a tree and it is very unlikely that she will be revived anytime soon." At this, Naruto glared at the man. "Says you. I don't give as easily as other people. TCH, you really do have what those ninjas back in your world call the will of fire." Ares said, "Admirable, but annoying. I will warn you. Now, if you cannot revive in just a few years, give up. I am a father after all and I do want to see Clarisse happy. She's my friend, I'll make her happy." Naruto glared. "Good," Ares replied, knowing that was what he would get out of this conversation. He then held out a hand for the blonde to take, helping him up. "Glad you see it my way, kid. But if I had actually hurt you, Aphrodite would have me in the dog house." "Ha, man, you are whipped." Naruto laughed. "Hey, maybe I am, you will be too when the time comes." Ares argued back. "Still it is not all bad. I am with the most beautiful woman in the world." "Okay," Naruto said. "Yeah, now, she would really have my balls on a plate if I killed you." Ares replied with a shiver, making Naruto smirk at how his grandma really scared this man, the freaking god of war. "Hey, you mentioned the will of fire. What did you mean by that? It seemed like you knew something more about it." Naruto commented. "Of course I know about it." Ares snapped. "I was there when Hestia gave it to the first Hokage." "Wait, what?" Naruto asked. "Yeah, the will of fire was something she gave to him when she saw him fighting for peace. You have it in you because you fight hard for your precious people in your new home. You want to make everyone happy." Ares paused before he looked right into Naruto's eyes. "And thanks to me, it can be used as attack." "How is that possible?" Naruto asked. "It fuels some of the user's most powerful attacks." Ares replied. "Some of the best warriors in your village use it and don't even know." "Why are you telling me this now?" Naruto asked. "Because, you will need to know this when you fight the last son of Echidna tomorrow. I want you to win this battle for me because I still want to fight you. I want payback." Ares growled. "Hey, fair enough." Naruto chuckled at Ares' childish reasons. "Remember what I said," Ares said seriously before he walked over to his chariot and rode off. "Yeah," Naruto said, thinking about Talia and Clarisse as he went below to tell his partner that he was okay and to get some sleep. Orochimaru and Echidna appeared on a beach in North Carolina. Looking around at the unfamiliar place he was in, he contemplated walking to see the sights. Echidna had other plans. "My son, you will get your time in looking around in your life. Even if you are killed at the hands of the death god's son, you will just be reborn again in a few years, like all my children." "I see," Orochimaru replied, happy that he could live forever, even if he was killed. "When shall I battle this weak little genin?" Quote, "Do not underestimate him, my son. He has already defeated one of my other child." Echidna snapped before her face began to smile. "Tomorrow," He and another will pass this spot on a metal vessel. Your battle will begin then, and be sure to kill him in the most painful way you can think of." Orochimaru chuckled evilly at that. "And his friend? That would be up to you. I care not of the fate of a daughter of the god of war." Echidna replied before she disappeared, leaving the snake-like man to his thoughts. Naruto was on edge. What Ares said last night made him so. Today he was to fight the last son of Echidna. He had no clue who it could be, but they were from his world and he knew not to take a fight like this for granted. Clarisse looked at her friend in worry. She had no clue what her father said, but it put the boy on edge, and that was never good. When she heard that bump last night, she was afraid that her father might kill him, but he didn't, and he just came down with a red jaw. Where her father punched the blonde. "Naruto, what is wrong?" she finally asked. Naruto sighed. He had not told her about the conversation at all, and he regret it because Esh was unaware of what was about to transpire. "Remember that passage in the prophecy?" "Yeah, you have fight the last son of Echidna." Clarisse replied. "What of it? Your dad came to want me about it. Today is the day I will fight it." Naruto sighed. "To be honest, I am not sure I have the power to take it on." "Oh, and why is that?" Clarisse challenged. "Because it is from my world, and well, I have not fought a ninja in a long time," Naruto said gloomily. However, before he could say anything else, she smacked him. "Wah! What was that for? Are you listening to yourself?" Clarisse raged. "I may not have known you very long, but this talk is not you. You fight for your friends, no matter the enemy. You are the best fighter in camp. If you don't lose sight of what you are fighting for, you will never lose." Naruto blinked stupidly as Clarisse panted from her rant. "Hey, you're right," Naruto laughed. "I guess I just need to be reminded every now and then." He then hugged her in thanks, making the girl blush at the contact while he thought about the same incident before the Chunin exams. Hinata had to remind him of the same thing. "And no problem," Clarisse replied, before he turned away from him so that he would not see the blush. However, it quickly went away when she saw a lone person on a nearby beach, staring right at them with a sick smile. "Who is that?" she asked aloud. "No way," Naruto said with wide eyes before they both fell to their knees under the overwhelming pressure of the man's killing intent. "No freaking way. This is Madening. Clarisse thought in panic before she heard metal slicing into flesh. She thought that the man had hurt her, but she felt no pain. That it hit her. Naruto. The sicko had hurt Naruto. I'll kill him. Oh yeah, that brought her out of her fear-induced trance, only to see that Naruto had stabbed himself to regain himself. Naruto looked to his partner and said, "It is Orochimaru. An S-class ninja from my world. I'll handle this. Are you fucking nuts? We gotta get the hell out of here." Clarisse roared, but she soon calmed down when Naruto put his hand on her shoulders, making her look in his eyes. "I have to do this. He will just follow us anyway. I'll be okay." The girl sighed before saying, "But if you get hurt on my watch, I am kicking your ass myself." "Hey, then I better not get hurt then." Naruto laughed before he jumped off the boat and walked towards the snake-like man on the beach, who was smirking the whole time. "Naruto-kun, it has been a while," Orochimaru stated. "Snake freak." Naruto ground out. "I am kind of glad it is you that I have to fight." "Oh, and why is that, Naruto-kun? Pay back for doing what you did to Sasuke." Naruto roared. "Oh, the boy wanted power and I gave some to him. He chose to leave on his own free will," Orochimaru replied with his everlasting smirk. "He has so much potential. He is already so strong that I doubt you could even touch him. You are the same. You have potential, but do you have what it takes to beat me? We'll see." Naruto shouted as seals appeared over his clothes and his Anbu armor appeared, along with his ninja gear, making the man raise an eyebrow. Naruto then took out the Minotaur blade, hoping to distract the man for a bit. The snake man was indeed put off by the strange bull-like creatures before him. There were 10 in all. "What in hell are these things?" he asked aloud. "It is the Minotaur," Naruto replied while adding chakra to the blade and thrusting it forward. "Death style. True Minotaur control." The GI ant beasts in the illusion all froze up before the spirit of the beast went into all 10 of them. "You may have attacked me and Percy before, but thanks to Dead, I have control of you. Naruto said to himself. Charge. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he had to dodge to the side a few times when the beast came charging after him. It seemed that with Naruto's knowledge within them, they were able to fight better this time. A few nearly grazed him, but Orochimaru kept getting out of the way in time. That is when he noticed that only 9 were actually attacking him, but before he could think more on that, he was pounded on from behind as its horns pierced through his stomach. Crying out in pain, the snake man quickly got off the horns before backflipping and bashing the thing on the head with his strength. He was caught off guard again when he was caught in between 2 more pairs of horns. He growled at that. He was Sannin for Kami's sake. He regurgitated Kusanagi, sliced through the heads of the 3 around him before using the temporary paralysis jutsu to stop the rest of the strange beasts, and then he killed them as well. Naruto glared at the man. He knew it would not have been that easy. So he charged in himself, raising the Minotaur blade to strike at his foe. Their blades connected in the middle and Orochimaru almost thought he had to dodge another Minotaur, but after a few more connections of their swords, he found that they were illusions, meant to confuse and scare the enemy. Oh, very intriguing, Naruto-kun. A sword like that could win you a few battles back home. But not this one. Orochimaru then used his superior strength to knock the blade out of his hands, sending the Minotaur blade spinning to the boat, embedding it in the metal just a few feet from Clarisse, who paled at that. However, she paled even more when the snake-like man slashed vertically, slicing Naruto in half. Naruto. There was a poof of smoke and a piece of driftwood appeared in his place and it was in half. Orochimaru looked back to the water to see the blonde standing there, panting. Show me more, Naruto. You are starting to interest me. Fine. Chaos style. Chaotic construction of doom. Naruto shouted as a greenish-black blob appeared above them before it exploded, sending the same color hands and twisting spears at the man. Orochimaru actually had a look of fear on his face at this attack. To him, it seemed so unpredictable, and he was right. The hands came at him, with him dodging them all, but they twisted back around. The spears, however, caught one of his hands, piercing it through it before jetting into the ground and staying there. 4 more hit the ground, but he was able to dodge them with the use of shadow clones. He tried to get out of the trap, but as he passed through 2 of them, he was bounced back to the middle of the trap. It sent a shock through him so bad that he never noticed that it had cost him a foot. Soon, the construction looked like a messy ball of yarn in a 5-point fence. Naruto quickly let the jutsu dissipate as it was very draining. When it cleared, he was pleased and a little sick at what he saw. Orochimaru's sword lay on the ground as his clutched at the stump of his right arm. Heck, he too was on the ground because both of his legs were gone and a part of his chest was blown out. My Naruto-kun. You actually seem to have damaged me. Orochimaru managed to spit out as blonde poured from his mouth. But this is far from over. Body shedding. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw Orochimaru climb out of the mouth of his old damaged body. What in the hell? Quote, now we fight for real, Naruto-kun. I know not to take you lightly. The snake man said before he rushed the blonde with the grass cutter and swung down vertically. Naruto did not dodge or replace himself this time. He blocked the man's power strike with both fear and destruction. What's this? More blades. Oh, I would love to see what these do. Naruto pushed Orochimaru back and slammed both of his blades down on him, but the snake man blocked easily. What Orochimaru didn't account for was that Naruto would slide one of his blades outward to him, creating sparks. The man moved his head away from the blade, but he still got cut. Actually, his ear was split in half. Angry, Orochimaru knocked away Naruto's blades and stabbed the blonde in the shoulder, making him cry out. Ah, your death will truly be fun. Orochimaru shouted out before he took the sword out of Naruto's shoulder. You bastard. Naruto growled. He swung destruction and yelled. Chaos wave. Quote, cursing under his breath, Orochimaru used the substitution to get away from the wave of energy that literally destroyed everything in its path. I will not lose to a brat like you. Formation of 10,000 snakes. Naruto grimaced at that. Thankfully his quick healing let him use his shoulder again and he dropped his blades to perform another jutsu to get rid of the damn snakes. Seriously, the man had a fetish for them. I don't know how well this will work during the day, but what the hell. Darkness style. Nixus judgment. Darkness appeared in a dark mist all around the blonde before it shot off toward the snakes, eating them up like acid. However, a few survived and struck out at the blonde with swords coming out of their mouths. Naruto glared at them before he took up his swords and sliced them to bits. This angered Orochimaru. I don't what you did, but now I don't care. I will kill you one way or another, and mother didn't I could or could not kill the girl on the boat. Maybe I could use her in one of my experiments that I'll be doing in this strange land. How about? Fuck no. Naruto growled. I won't let you hurt any of my precious people. Clarisse smiled when she heard that. It was the first time she actually smiled in this intense battle. It was wrecking her nerves, with her hoping that Naruto would be okay. Take this. Death style. Popping like daisies. Naruto shouted. It grew quiet at that. The two others processing what he just said. What kind of name for an attack is that? Clarisse yelled out comically, also voicing Orochimaru's thoughts. Naruto didn't say anything as the ground around the snake man shook violently before hands shot out of the ground, all dead and rotting. They also caught Orochimaru's legs before pulling themselves out the ground. What madness is this? Oh, just a gathering of our friendly neighborhood flesh addicts. Naruto smiled cheerfully as they bit down on the man, making him scream out in pain before that face full of terror froze and then melted into mud. Really? This again? Naruto groaned. Oh yes, I will so enjoy killing and then taking all your jutsu out of that dead brain. Orochimaru shouted with a craze. Why look on his face and drool coming out his mouth as he popped out of the ground. You know, for an old man, you are pretty good. Why thank you Naruto-kun. But you were wrong, I am the best. Summoning jutsu. In a large poof of smoke. Nothing appeared. What the? Why can't I summon Manda? I have a theory. Naruto replied. When you became the monster and crossover, your contract with the giant snake is over. Unfortunately for you, I can summon Gamabunta, but I feel he will be of no use in this battle. I am going to end this when something that my father told me about. So let's get crackin'. He joked playfully at the end. Oh, and what can you do that will kill me just like that? Orochimaru growled, but he didn't let Naruto answer because he rushed him with the grass cutter, clashing with Naruto's blade in a flurry of motion. Their attacks giving off sparks as their footwork lead them onto the water. In a wide open space, a good distance away from the boat. Naruto smirked as he sent chakra to his arms to knock away Orochimaru, who looked at him warily, the man back to the wide expanse of the ocean. Naruto smiled. The energy of Kraken flows through these blades. Kraken, you know it better as the 10 tails. And now I will release it to destroy you. Naruto shouted as he slammed the hilts together, creating a double-sided sword before it glowed in red and white energy as he spun it around until it became a blur. Orochimaru's eyes widened when he heard that and he panicked in fear for a second. He quickly regained himself and hoped that his next jutsu worked. Summoning jutsu. Triple Rashomon. Thankfully for him, it worked. The 3 gates rose out of the water rose just in time. Naruto let the spinning blades go as they spun on their own. Time to end this. Ultimate Tailed Beast Ball. Naruto shouted as it became a large sphere and he slammed his fist into it. That was the breaking point as a massive amount of energy shot forward and obliterates the gates like they were wet paper. Traveling off into the ocean. Naruto panted as that took a bit of his own chakra to pull off. But it was all for naught because he heard clapping and laughing that sounded dark. He looked up to see a wet Orochimaru. The man had escaped the attack by diving into the water. Ah, shit, truly a fun battle, but it is time for me to end this myself. Orochimaru roared as he med into his huge snake with many snakes along its body. Time to die, it roared as T lunged at the blonde, who cursed his luck. Damn, so this is his true from. Shit, he yelled as he dodged left and right, trying not to get hit. But it was pretty hard with all those other snake lunging for him as well. He could barely strike back and set up and Flying Thunder God Seal on the man. Screw this, he yelled as he managed to kick the monster back enough so that he could perform another jutsu. Hellfire and Darkness style. Wings. Of the fallen angel, the dark fire wings formed on his back, sending him into the air just before Orochimaru lunged at him again. He sighed in exhaustion, as he flew into the sun's light, making him look like a true angel to those looking up. Orochimaru, you may be from the same village as me. But you are nothing like anyone in the village. We fight for our friends. We fight for peace. As Naruto yelled, wispy red energy swirled around his being. I will protect my friends from people like you. I will not lose, for I have the will of fire. The red energy burst all around him at this point, not that he noticed, but the others did. This is so awesome, Clarisse said from her spot, with the undead Confederate soldier nodding dumbly. They had actually begun watching halfway through the battle. Clarisse herself had stars in her eyes. Orochimaru froze at that. What the hell was going on? This brat had never been this powerful before. All throughout the battle he had been throwing out all these crazy jutsu and sword skills. Now he was speaking like the Hokages. Uncle Poseidon, please keep him still. Naruto prayed to his uncle as he held out his right hand, forming a Rasengan, but it was red, like the energy surrounding him. I am going to end this, now. With that, Naruto flew down at high speeds. Orochimaru tried to get out of the way, but for some reason, he could not move, at all. No, 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 he screamed as Naruto got closer. Will of Fire Rasengan, Naruto screamed out as he slammed the swirling mass of energy right into Orochimaru's snake face, making the man scream out in pain as his face was twisted beyond belief. It was blown inwards and the energy shredded through the rest of the body, utterly destroying it. Panting, Naruto tiredly looked around, making sure that Orochimaru was finally gone. All that was left was a familiar floating sword. Spoils of war, he thought as he took the blade before lowly flying back to the boat, the wings barely flapping due to the little chakra he had left. As soon as he landed, the wings dispelled and he felt himself falling back, but Clarisse caught him before he hit the ground. I got ya. Hey, thanks. Remind me to thank Aunt Hestia the next time I see her. He said with a tired smile. I am so tired. Man, that was a chaotic battle. Did someone say chaos? The voice rang out happily. Well, there you go, the next chapter. Can anyone guess who the voice is? I'll give you a hint. She is in the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. Now Naruto has a new blade. Please tell me what you think of the battle too rushed. I hope it was good. I have been rather tired today, so it was a pain to write this review. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters. Welcome to the Sea of Monsters Chapter 10. Thanks ZerHauer20XX for an idea. Okay, just so you all know, I am not going to be doing the second series. I will do this whole series, with Naruto's quest, and that is it. So that means all 5 books. Naruto smiled weakly as his sister, before wincing. Some of those damn snakes had actually got him. But thanks to his abnormal healing, thanks to the Kyuubi that used to be in him, the poison was fading, but he was still exhausted. So Aris, any reason you decided to show up, and is yours. LF from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Aris smiled before she put a hand on the blonde demi-deity's shoulder, making him glow for a minute. Simple, you give you the gift our brothers and sisters were to give you. Mom thought it best that I come and see you. Besides, I had to get away from Hermes and his mail service. Geez, I said I would help the guy out, but run the place. Clarisse's sweat dropped before she said, I have seen that show and don't act like the Aris on that show. Aris? I twitched at that. Of course not. Saying the word, like, every few words would get annoying for anyone. Besides, I am not that annoying, or crazy. And that Hoss Delgado is weird and annoying. I agree. You are a lot cooler this way, Naruto said as he noticed that he was only half as tired as he was before. Glad you think so, Aris said with a smile. Oh, and you might want to turn around. Huh, Naruto said as he did that literally. No, I meant the boat. Head to the swamps of Virginia and you will find Percy, Annabeth, and Grover there. What? No way, Clarisse growled. Naruto sighed. Oh come on Clarisse. The prophecy did say that you would fail without the help of friends. But I got you to help me. Hey, true, but I can only do so much. Annabeth does have brains and she will be some help. Tyson has the strength we need, and Percy can fight. So please, for me, Naruto asked with a smile. Clarisse sighed. Alright fine, but you owe me. Aris smiled at the exchange. Oh, and Apollo did mention something. She said, catching their attention again. He told me that they will be in a fight with a Hydra. So you might want to hurry. Hey, thanks for the warning, sis. Naruto said with a smile as he made clones to help push the ship around faster. Oh, it is no problem. And remember, she started while taking out her golden apple. A golden apple a day keeps you in traction for the next few months. She then disappeared, cackling the whole time. She scares me sometimes, Naruto said with a sigh. Of course she would scare you. She is the goddess of chaos. Clarisse said. Nah, she is not that. Naruto said, waving her off. She is the goddess of strife and discord. Chaos was the primordial god of chaos. Clarisse just stared at her crush for a moment and before walking off, saying, whatever. Do what you want because you are a pirate. Naruto sang to himself. As the boat chugged away down the swampy river, he could not figure out why Percy would be here, or why a Hydra would want to be in this region anyway. Oh well, whatever. He was still tired from his battle with Orochimaru. But he was good to fight some monster that grew more heads every time you cut one off. He sat on the edge of the boat, looking out for his friends. Clarisse walked up from behind him in full Greek battle armor and a cannon ready for anything. Well, you seem to be ready for anything. Naruto commented. It is a Hydra after all. We are not all super ninjas like you. Clarisse countered with a smirk. True, you guys are not as awesome as me, but I guess it helps to be prepared. Naruto said with a smile as he made his Anbu armor appear. He then looked TP the ready cannon and said, you must really want to get this over with. I do, and it helps that the Hydra is very weak to fire. Clarisse explained, making the blonde blink. Wow, that thing does not stand a chance. Naruto said with a big smile. With the girl smiling as well because it is contagious. Got that right, Clarisse said with a smile of her own. Soon, they came upon an interesting battle. Naruto had a deadpan look on his face and said, oh, okay, a monster wearing a large bib, yeah, that is not weird at all. Naruto's sarcastic voice rang out, along with the boat's chugging that Percy and others seemed to hear from their spot as they fought the Hydra. What's that noise? Annabeth shouted, keeping her eyes on the Hydra, but once she heard Naruto's voice, she smiled a bit and said, oh. Steam engine in Naruto. Tyson said. What? Percy ducked as the Hydra spat acid over his head. Okay, Clarisse said before she rounded on the dead Confederate soldier behind her before pointing to the Hydra. There. Prepare the 32-pounder. None of the heroes fighting the Hydra dared to look back, but they had an idea of who was behind them. And they thought it was an enemy. Well, if it was Clarisse, then they might have an enemy, but Naruto was with her, so they were good. They're too close, milady. The gravelly voice of the dead man replied. Damn the heroes. The girl said. Full steam ahead. Aye, milady. Fire at will, Captain. Ooh, this should be fun. Fire in the hole. Naruto shouted as the cannon fired in the Hydra's general direction. Annabeth understood what as happening a split second before any of her friends did. She yelled, hit the dirt. They all dove to the ground just as the Hydra was hit by the cannonball, making the Hydra go up in flame as it exploded around them. The Hydra exploded right in front of them, showering them with nasty green slime that vaporized as soon as it hit, the way monster guts tend to do. Gross, screamed Annabeth. Steamship, yelled Tyson. The Cyclops was right. Naruto and Clarisse pulled up near them in their ironclad steamship. Naruto smirked at their bewildered looks. So, how was the escape of the camp? Naruto asked with a smirk. How? Percy asked. Hey, I sent a shadow clone to trail you and I called for Annabeth and Tyson to come and find you just after Hermes left. Naruto explained. Oh, so that was you. Annabeth said with realization. So you set all this up? Clarisse asked. Yes. Naruto asked with a smile. Figures. Clarisse replied before she looked at the demigods and their Cyclops friend on the ground. Well, losers, I suppose I should rescue you, climb aboard. With, Naruto helped them aboard before gave them a tour of the steamship. You were in so much trouble, Clarisse said. They had just finished a ship tour that the trio didn't want, through dark rooms overcrowded with dead sailors. They saw the coal bunker, the boilers and engine, which huffed and groaned like it would explode any minute. They saw the pilot house and the powder magazine and gunnery deck, Clarisse's favorite, with 2 Dahlgren smoothbore cannons on the port and starboard sides and a Brook inch rifled gun fore and aft, all specially refitted to fire celestial bronze cannon balls. Everywhere they went, dead Confederate sailors stared at them, their ghostly bearded faces shimmering over their skulls. They approved of Annabeth because she told them she was from Virginia. They were interested in Percy, too, because his last name was Jackson, like the Southern general, but then he went and blew by tell them he was from New York, and they groaned, muttering about Yankees. Tyson was terrified of them. All through the tour, he insisted Annabeth hold his hand, which she didn't look too thrilled about. Finally, they were escorted to dinner. The CSS Birmingham captain's quarters were about the size of a walk-in closet, but still much bigger than any other room on board. The table was set with white linen and china. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, potato chips, and Dr. Peppers were served by skeletal crewmen. Percy didn't want to eat anything served by ghosts, but his hunger overruled his fear. Tantalus expelled you for eternity, Clarisse told them smugly. Mr. D said if any of you show your face at camp again, he'll turn you into squirrels and run you over with his SUV. Let me guess. The food freak told you that while I was saying goodbye to Talia. Naruto said. Yep, Clarisse replied, and Naruto just grunted. He really hated that guy, but what can you do? Did they give you guy this ship? Percy asked. Course not. My father did. Ares. Percy asked. Clarisse sneered. You think your daddy is the only one with sea power? The spirits on the losing side of every war owe a tribute to Ares. That's their curse for being defeated. I prayed to my father for a naval transport, and here it is. These guys will do anything I tell them. Won't you, Captain? The Captain stood behind her, looking stiff and angry. His glowing green eyes fixed at Percy with a hungry stare. If it means an end to this infernal war, ma'am, peace at last, we'll do anything. Destroy anyone. Clarisse smiled. Destroy anyone. I like that. Tyson gulped and Naruto looked on board. That could have been useful information earlier today, though I doubt they would have stood a chance against the snake. Clarisse. Annabeth said after she looked at her follow blonde questionably. Luke might be after the fleece, too. We saw him. He's got the coordinates and he's heading south. He has a cruise ship full of monsters. Good. I'll blow him out of the water. Clarisse cheered while Naruto smiled, but even he knew this boat stood no chance. You don't understand, Annabeth said. We have to combine forces. Let us help you. No. Clarisse pounded the table. This is my quest, smart girl. Finally I get to be the hero, and you two will not steal my chance. Where are your cabin mates? Percy asked. You were allowed to take 2 friends with you, weren't you? They didn't. I let them stay behind. To protect the camp. Besides, all the help that I really need was Naruto's. Clarisse, Percy said, even with Naruto. Tantalus is using you. He doesn't care about the camp. He'd love to see it destroyed. He's setting you up to fail. No, I don't care what the Oracle. She stopped herself. What? I said. What did the Oracle tell you? Nothing. Clarisse's ears turned pink. All you need to know is that I'm finishing this quest and you're not helping. On the other hand, I can't let you go. So we're prisoners? Annabeth asked. Guests. For now. Clarisse propped her feet up on the white linen tablecloth and opened another drive. Pepper. Captain. Take them. Below. Assign them hammocks on the berth deck. If they don't mind their manners, show them how we deal with enemy spies. Really, Clarisse? Naruto said once they left the room. You may have me to help you, but like I said before, I can't do it all and neither can you. It pays to have friends helping you out. I know, but they irritate me to no end. Clarisse raged, thinking they are all big and bad and crap like that. Whatever you saw, Clarisse, Naruto said with a sigh. But please think about my words, okay? Fine. Clarisse replied as she pouted in her seat as Naruto left to go catch up with his ragtag friends. I don't know how you put up with her, Percy stated as he laid in his hammock, the other agreeing with him. Don't like mean girl, Tyson said. Naruto laughed. Oh, you get used to her after a while. Besides, she is not that bad. He paused and said, I still can't believe you met Luke on the sea, that he has the remains of Gramps, oh bits. And I don't think Talia would agree with him. She may not like her dad that much, but I doubt she would go as far to try and kill him and the other gods. I said the same thing, Annabeth said smugly, making Percy roll his eyes. Changing the subject, the blonde girl noticed a new charm on her follow blonde armband. So, what is with the new charm? Is it connected to why your clothes kind of looks like crap? Hey, basically, Naruto said as he made his new sword. Kusanagi. Got this off old snake face. Percy gave Naruto a disbelieving look while Tyson and Annabeth were confused. What? They asked together. Orochimaru. Appa. Renly he is the lost and last son of Echidna. Naruto said, I didn't see her this time, but I bet she is really pissed off at me. How did you beat a Sannin from your world? Percy freaked. What, you think I have been slacking off? Naruto joked. Look, I know I should not have been able to beat him, but I guess the transition from my world to this world and becoming a true monster made him a little weak. Still it was an epic battle. Geez, I guess so. Percy laughed. So now you have 4 swords. Yep, almost like the game. Naruto smiled, making Percy laugh, while Annabeth rolled her eyes. And after that, I met another family member. Aris. Whoa, that is awesome, I think. Percy replied. Oh, it was. She helped me be not as tired as I was. Naruto stated. And she dressed as herself. From the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. Tell she was not annoying as she is in the series. Percy asked. Nope. Good. So, how are you holding up, Annabeth? Getting used to the blade of Aten yet? I am doing better thank you. Annabeth said with a smile. And yes, I getting used to it. That's good. Naruto said with a smile, while Percy just rose an eyebrow. They must be talking about that weird, but badass short sword that she got. Percy thought as Naruto and Annabeth talked. The dream came as soon as the duo fell asleep. Grover was sitting at his loom, desperately unraveling his wedding train. When the boulder door rolled aside and the Cyclops bellowed, aha! Grover yelped. Dear, I didn't you were so quiet. Unraveling. Polyphemus roared. So that's the problem. Oh, no, I wasn't. Come. Polyphemus grabbed Grover around the waist and half carried, half dragged him through the tunnels of the cave. Grover struggled to keep his high heels on his hooves. His veil kept tilting on his head, threatening to come off. The Cyclops pulled him into a warehouse-sized cavern decorated with sheep junk. There was a wool-covered lazyboy recliner and a wool-covered television set. Crude bookshelves loaded with sheep collectibles, coffee mugs shaped like sheep faces, plaster figurines of sheep, sheep board games, and picture books and action figures. The floor was littered with piles of sheep bones. And other bones that didn't look exactly like sheep, the bones of satyrs who'd come to the island looking for Pan. Polyphemus set Grover down only long enough to move another huge boulder. Daylight streamed into the cave, and Grover whimpered with longing. Fresh air. The Cyclops dragged him outside to a hilltop overlooking the most beautiful island Naruto and Percy had ever seen. It was shaped kind of like a saddle cut in half by an axe. There were lush green hills on either side and a wide valley in the middle, split by a deep chasm that was spanned by a rope bridge. Beautiful streams rolled to the edge of the canyon and dropped off in rainbow-colored waterfalls. Parrots fluttered in the trees. Pink and purple flowers bloomed on the bushes. Hundreds of sheep grazed in the meadows, their wool glinting strangely like copper and silver coins. And at the center of the island, right next to the rope bridge, was an enormous twisted oak tree with something glittering in its lowest bough. The golden fleece. Even in a dream, they could feel its power radiating across the island, making the grass greener, the flowers more beautiful. They could almost smell the nature magic at work. They could only imagine how powerful the scent would be for a satyr. So, that's what we are after. Seems powerful, Naruto thought. Grover whimpered. Yes, Polyphemus said proudly. See over there. Fleece is the prize of my collection. Stole it from heroes long ago, and ever since free food. Satyrs come from all over the world, like moths to flame. Satyrs good eating. And now, Polyphemus scooped up a wicked set of bronze shears. Grover yelped, but Polyphemus just picked up the nearest sheep like it was a stuffed animal and shaved off its wool. He handed a fluffy mass of it to Grover. Put that on the spinning wheel, he said proudly. Magic. Cannot be unraveled. Oh. Well. Poor honeybee. Polyphemus grinned. Bad weaver. Ha ha, not to worry, that thread will solve problem. Finish wedding train by tomorrow, isn't that thoughtful of you? Hee hee. But, dear, Grover gulped, what if someone were to attack this island? Grover looked straight at the two watching through the dream, and the two knew he was asking for their benefit. What would keep them from marching right up here to your cave? Wifey's scared. So cute. Not to worry. Palif. Emus has state-of-the-art security system. Have to get through my pets. Pets. Grover looked across the island, but there was nothing to see except sheep grazing peacefully in the meadows. And then, Polyphemus growled. They would have to get through me. He pounded his fist against the nearest rock, which cracked and split in half. Now, come, he shouted. Back to the cave. Grover looked about ready to cry, so close to freedom, but so hopelessly far. Tears welled in his eyes as the boulder door rolled shut, sealing him once again in the stinky torch-lit dankness of the Cyclops' cave. Don't worry, Grover. We are coming for you, Naruto thought, and Grover seemed to be happy with that until Naruto finished the sentence and anyone could tell he was giving the blonde a dirty look. Honey pie. Ha. Percy woke to alarm bells ringing throughout the ship. The captain's gravelly voice. All hands on deck. Find Lady Clarisse. Where is that girl? Then his ghostly face appeared above me. Get up, Yankee, and wake up your ninja friend for me. Your other friends are already above. We are approaching the entrance. The entrance to what? He gave the son of Poseidon a skeletal smile. The Sea of Monsters, of course. Naruto watched as Percy stuffed the few belongings that had survived the Hydra into a sailor's canvas knapsack and slung it over his shoulder. The water boy had a sneaking suspicion that one way or another he would not be spending another night aboard the CSS Birmingham. Ready, mate? Naruto asked like a sailor. Percy chuckled before they made their way up the stairs. However, Percy froze midway because he felt like he wanted to punch someone, and the only time he actually felt like that was when he was in the presence of Ares. Of course, Naruto felt it too, but like usual, he was not affected by it. They nodded to each other and crept over to the side of the railing. Looking down at the boiler room through the ventilation, they saw Clarisse talking to the god of war through the steam. Naruto saw Percy clench his fists in anger. The blonde put a hand on his shoulder to calm the boy down. I don't want excuses, little girl. Ares growled. Why yes, father, Clarisse mumbled. You don't want to see me mad, do you? No, father. No, father, Ares mimicked. You're pathetic. I should have let one of my sons take this quest. At least you have corpse breath's kid with you. Now he can fight. Percy felt the hand on his shoulder tighten a bit, and he looked to see that Naruto had a scowl on his face. Naruto knew that Clarisse was a bit afraid of her father, but the guy did not have to be an ass about it. I'll succeed, Clarisse promised, her voice trembling. I'll make you proud. You'd better, he warned. You asked me for this quest, girl. If you let that Limeball Jackson kid steal it from you. But the oracle said, I don't care what it said. Ares bellowed with such force that his image shimmered. You will succeed, and if you don't, he raised his fist. Even though he was only a figure in the steam, Clarisse flinched. Do we understand each other? Ares growled. The bell rang again, startling Naruto and Percy, and they nodded to each before EY left to go see Tyson and Percy on the up deck. Naruto, though, wanted to a nice chat with Ares later. He did not care if he was a god or Clarisse's dad, no one threatened his friends. What's wrong? Annabeth asked the two when they got up there. Another dream. Yup, Naruto replied while Percy nodded. Then Clarisse came up and Naruto could tell she was a little shaken up, so he put a hand on her shoulder. She looked at him, only to see him smile knowingly, and that made her smile somewhat. She knew he was overprotective of his friends, but she worried more for him than her father. She then grabbed a pair of binoculars from a zombie officer and peered toward the horizon. At last, Captain, full steam ahead. And now the fun begins. Naruto shouted out excitedly. Percy and Annabeth looked at their friend like he was nuts, while Tyson just looked confused. Percy looked ahead but could not see much other than a couple of dark fuzzy splotches in the distance. His nautical senses told him they were somewhere off the coast of northern Florida, so they had come a long way overnight, farther than any mortal ship should have been able to travel. The engine groaned as they increased speed. Tyson muttered nervously, "Too much strain on the pistons. Not meant for deep water." Percy looked nervous at that even though he did not know what it meant while Naruto groaned and he smacked his face. Not to be rude, but couldn't have given us something for recent and that could handle deep sea travel. Clarisse didn't answer, too afraid of her father to do that. After a few more minutes, the dark splotches ahead came into focus. To the north, a huge mass of rock rose out of the sea, an island with cliffs at least 100 feet tall. About half a mile south of that, the other patch of darkness was a storm brewing. The sky and sea boiled together in a roaring mass. "Hurricane?" Annabeth asked. "No," Clarisse said. "Charybdis." Annabeth paled. "Are you crazy? Oh, this should be fun." Naruto deadpanned as he took out Kusanagi for just in case. "Only way into the Sea of Monsters. Straight between Charybdis and her sister Skyla." Clarisse pointed to the top of the cliffs, making Percy gulp. "What do you mean the only way?" Percy asked. "The sea is wide open. Just sail around them." Clarisse rolled her eyes. "Don't you know anything? If I tried to sail around them, they would just appear in my path again. If you want to get into the Sea of Monsters, you have to sail through them." "What about the clashing rocks?" Annabeth said. "That's another gateway. Jason used it. I can't blow apart rocks with my cannons." Clarisse said. "Monsters, on the other hand. You are crazy," Annabeth decided. "But fun to be around." Naruto chimed in, making Annabeth look at him like he was nuts, again, while Clarisse smiled. "Watch and learn, wise girl." Clarisse turned to the captain. "Set course for Charybdis." "Aye, milady." The engine groaned, the iron plating rattled, and the ship began to pick up speed. "Clarisse," Percy said, "Charybdis sucks up the sea. Isn't that the story? And spits it back out again, yeah. What about Skyla?" he asked nervously. "She lives in a cave, up on those cliffs. If we get too close, her snaky heads will come down and start plucking sailors off the ship." Naruto said for her, "Either way is not ideal, but not much we can do at the moment. I still say something from World War II would have been a lot more useful than something from the Civil War." He paused and looked the captain. "No offense to you guys or anything." "None taken," the captain replied. "Choose Skyla then," Percy said after he thought about it. "Everybody goes below deck and we chug right past." "No," Clarisse insisted. "If Skyla doesn't get her easy meat, she might pick up the whole ship. Besides, she's too high to make a good target. My cannons can't shoot straight up and I am not sure if Naruto has any jutsu that could hurt her way up there. Charybdis just sits there at the center of her whirlwind. We're going to steam straight toward her, train our guns on her, and blow her to Tartarus." For a moment, Percy believed her because she said it with such emotion. Naruto just smirked. He knew he did not have many long-range jutsu, just destructive and in-your-face jutsu. The engine hummed. The boilers were heating up so much they could feel the deck getting warm beneath their feet and it gave Naruto a bad feeling. The smokestacks billowed. The red Ares flag whipped in the wind. As they got closer to the monsters, the sound of Charybdis got louder, a horrible wet roar like the galaxy's biggest toilet being flushed. Every time Charybdis inhaled, the ship shuddered and lurched forward. Every time she exhaled, the ship rose in the water and was buffeted by 10-foot waves. I think I am getting seasick," Naruto said with a green face. "Now?" they all asked in disbelief. Shaking his head, Percy tried to time the whirlpool. As near as he could figure, it took Charybdis about 3 minutes to suck up and destroy everything within a half-mile radius. To avoid her, they would have to skirt right next to Skyla's cliffs. And as bad as Skyla might be, those cliffs were looking awfully good to the water boy. Undead sailors calmly went about their business on the spar deck. Percy guessed they'd fought a losing cause before, so this didn't bother them. Or maybe they didn't care about getting destroyed because they were already deceased. Neither thought make him feel any better. Percy felt Naruto's hand on his shoulder again. "Don't worry so much. We'll be fine. I got your back." This coming from the guy who gets seasick by rough water. Percy said nervously. "Meh, details," the blonde said nonchalantly. Annabeth stood next to the two, gripping the rail. "You still have your thermos full of wind?" she asked Percy, which made Naruto raise an eyebrow. Percy nodded. But it's too dangerous to use with a whirlpool like that. More wind might just make things worse. Wind. Damn, if your thermos full of wind won't work, I doubt my great breakthrough jutsu would not work either. No, it wouldn't, Annabeth said with a frown as she thought about something before her eyes lit up. Percy, what about water? You're Poseidon's son. You've done it before. She was right about that, so Percy closed his eyes and tried to concentrate in calming the sea. But it wasn't working. Charybdis was too loud and powerful. The waves wouldn't respond to his commands. I can't. We need a backup plan, Annabeth said. This isn't going to work. She then looked to Naruto, who paled. Don't look at me. I don't have any water jutsu that would be useful in this area. Naruto explained. Annabeth is right, Tyson said. Engine's no good. What do you mean? She asked. Pressure. Pistons need fixing. Before he could explain, the cosmic toilet flushed with a mighty roar. The ship lurched forward and they were thrown to the deck. They were in the whirlpool. Full reverse. Clarisse screamed above the noise. The sea churned around them, waves crashing over the deck. The iron plating was now so hot it steamed. Get us within firing range. Make ready. Starboard cannons. Naruto made his way over to her, blade at the ready for just in case. Dead Confederates rushed back and forth. The propeller grinded into reverse, trying to slow the ship, but they kept sliding toward the center of the vortex. A zombie sailor burst out of the hold and ran to Clarisse. His gray uniform was smoking. His beard was on fire. Boiler room overheating, ma'am. She's going to blow. Quote, well, get down there and fix it. Can't. The sailor yelled. We're vaporizing in the heat. Naruto cursed while Clarisse pounded the side of the casemate. All I need is a few more minutes. Just enough to get in range. We're going in too fast, the captain said grimly. Prepare yourself for death. Hell no. Naruto growled. No. Tyson bellowed. I can fix it. Clarisse looked at him incredulously. He's a cyclops, Annabeth said. He's immune to fire. And he knows mechanics. Oh yeah, I forgot about that, Naruto said thoughtfully. Go, yelled Clarisse. Tyson. No. Percy grabbed his arm. It's too dangerous. He patted the shorter boy's hand. Only way, brother. His expression was determined, confident, even. Percy had never seen him look like this before. I will fix it. Be right back. As Percy watched him follow the smoldering sailor down the hatch, he had a terrible gut feeling until he felt Naruto's hand on his shoulder. I am worried too, just trust him, okay? Percy nodded hesitantly. Then they both paled, because they saw Charybdis. Holy crap, Tyson, hurry up, Naruto freaked. Charybdis appeared only a few hundred yards away, through a swirl of mist and smoke and water. The first thing they noticed was the reef, a black crag of coral with a fig tree clinging to the top, an oddly peaceful thing in the middle of a maelstrom. All around it, water curved into a funnel, like light around a black hole. Then they saw the horrible thing anchored to the reef just below the waterline, an enormous mouth with slimy lips and mossy teeth the size of rowboats. And worse, the teeth had braces, bands of corroded scummy metal with pieces of fish and driftwood and floating garbage stuck between them. Charybdis was an orthodontist's nightmare. She was nothing but a huge black maw with bad teeth alignment and a serious overbite, and she'd done nothing for centuries but eat without brushing after meals. The entire sea around her was sucked into the void. Sharks, schools of fish, a giant squid. It took them a moment until they realized that they would be next. Lady Clarisse, the captain shouted. Starboard and forward guns are in range. Fire, Clarisse ordered. 3 rounds were blasted into the monster's maw. One blew off the edge of an incisor. Another disappeared into her gullet. The third hit one of Charybdis's retaining bands and shot back at us, snapping the Ares flag off its pole. Again, Clarisse ordered as the gunners reloaded. Naruto growled as he noticed that it was getting hopeless. Cannonballs C. Old only do so much against something this big, maybe jutsu, maybe not. Either way, they were being sucked in too quickly. Hellfire style. Burning dragon. Naruto breathed in and then blew out the black burning dragon at the water beast. The black dragon vaporized a good amount of the water in its mouth and scorched some of its mouth as well. It roared out in pain. I think you made it mad. Annabeth shouted in panic. It was worth a try. Naruto shouted out nervously. Then the vibrations in the deck changed. The hum of the engine got stronger and steadier. The ship shuddered and they started pulling away from the mouth. Tyson did it, Annabeth said. Oh, thank the gods for that. Naruto sighed in relief. Wait, Clarisse said. We need to stay close. We'll die, Percy said. We have to move away. Percy gripped the rail as the ship fought against the suction. The broken Ares flag raced past them and lodged in Charybdis's braces. They weren't making much progress, but at least they were holding our own. Tyson had somehow given them just enough juice to keep the ship from being sucked in. Suddenly, the mouth snapped shut. The sea died to absolute calm. Water washed over Charybdis. Then, just as quickly as it had closed, the mouth exploded open, spitting out a wall of water, ejecting everything inedible, including the cannonballs, one of which slammed into the side of the CS. Birmingham with a ding like the bell on a carnival game. Then they were thrown backward on a wave that must have been 40 feet high. Percy used all of his willpower to keep the ship from capsizing. But they were still spinning out of control, hurtling toward the cliffs on the opposite side of the strait. And I thought before was bad, Naruto said sickly with swirly eyes. Another smoldering sailor burst out of the hold. He stumbled into Clarisse, almost knocking them both overboard. Naruto caught them just in time. The engine is about to blow. Where's Tyson? Percy demanded. Still down there, the sailor said. Holding it together somehow, though I don't know for how much longer. The captain said, we have to abandon ship. No, Clarisse yelled as Naruto put a hand on her tightly, having one of his gut feelings. Something bad always happened when he had those. We have no choice, milady. The hull is already cracking apart. She can't. He never finished his sentence. Quick as lightning, something brown and green shot from the sky, snatched up the captain, and lifted him away. All that was left were his leather boots. Crap, we're too close to Skyla. Naruto growled, as he himself dodged another column of flesh from the beast, only to catch a freaked-out zombie man who yelled its name. Percy tried to swipe at one, but missed. Everyone get below, he yelled after missing, not wanting to get caught. I don't know if you have forgotten, but below is all in flames. Naruto shouted. Lifeboats, Annabeth said. Quick, they'll never get clear of the cliffs, Clarisse said. We'll all be eaten. We have to try. Percy, the thermos, Annabeth ordered. I can't leave Tyson. We have to get the boats ready. Annabeth shouted. Clarisse and Naruto nodded to each other as they took Annabeth's orders. This tub was a lost cause anyway, time to abandon ship. They, along with the undead soldiers, uncovered one of the two emergency rowboats while Skyla's heads rain. From the sky like a meteor shower with teeth, picking off Confederate sailors one after another. Get the other boat. Percy threw Annabeth the thermos. I'll get Tyson. You can't, she said. The heat will kill you. Percy didn't listen. Naruto scowled when he heard Annabeth call out to her friend, but his eyes widened when he saw Percy being snatched up by his knapsack by Skyla. Percy. Thankfully, Percy used quick thinking and stabbed at the monster's eye, making it drop him. Karoom. The engine room blew, sending chunks of ironclad flying in either direction like a fiery set of wings. Tyson. Percy screamed out and Naruto cursed. The lifeboats had managed to get away from the ship, but not very far. Flaming wreckage was raining down. Clarisse, Naruto, and Annabeth was either going to be smashed or burned or pulled to the bottom by the force of the sinking hull, and that was thinking optimistically, assuming they got away from Skyla. Thankfully, Naruto used his new sword to slice away any wreckage that came near them. However, he froze when he heard another explosion. Only this one wasn't normal. It was like wind violently escaping a tightly encompassed space, and he had a feeling that it was that Theros Percy and Annabeth kept talking about. It split up the group, sending Percy flying away from them like a rocket and into the sea nearby, Annabeth in the same direction. Naruto and Clarisse were violently buffeted by the wave of air and water. The two held on tight to each other as the madness continued and pushed them farther into the sea of monsters. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.